Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Fantasy. Sign in from the womb, born as a major antagonist. Chapter 76. However, when Mu Lengxin heard Mu Bing's voice through the sound-transmitting jade, she didn't hesitate for a moment and immediately left the Divine Wood Forest, heading towards her sect, the Divine Ice Palace. Zhan Zhang sighed and, burdened with heavy thoughts, left the Divine Wood Forest with Mo Lingfeng. Following Jishu's instructions, he planned to bring Mo Lingfeng back to the Saint Sect before returning to the Great Thunderclap Monastery himself. Yingling glanced at Zhan Zhang's departing figure, shook his head, and coldly snorted before also leaving the Divine Wood Forest. Time passed quickly. When the various outstanding talents returned to their respective sects, the tranquil Nine Heavens continent was stirred up like a lake hid by several giant stones. Countless cultivators were eagerly waiting for the top cultivation sects to speak up, wanting to know what exactly had happened in the Heavenly Demon Mountain. Crimson Cloth Church. When Shen Ruliu, the leader of the Crimson Cloth Church, saw her beloved disciple return in a disoriented state, she immediately rushed forward and hugged Shen Jan Shen, her heart that had been hanging in midair finally landing. "You little brat, you finally came back. Let your master take a look. Are you injured?" Shen Ruliu looked Shen Jan Shen up and down, afraid that he had suffered some incurable injuries. At this moment, she suddenly noticed that Shen Jiangxin's eyes were slightly lowered, his body trembling, and his emotions completely off. "Jianshin, what's wrong with you?" Shen Ruliu had a bad premonition, so she tried to calm her tone and asked softly. "Master, disciple thought I would never see you again." Shen Jianshin looked up at Shen Ruliu, tears shimmering in her reddened eyes, her voice filled with fear and lingering dread. "Jianshin, what happened in the Divine Wood Forest?" Shen Ruliu tightly embraced Shen Jianshin and asked in a low voice. Hearing this, Shen Jianshin fell silent for a moment, seemingly brewing her words. Then, with a slightly tearful voice, she said, "Yi Zhan, that man named Yi Zhan. He's simply a demon." Upon hearing this, Shen Ruliu furrowed her brows. She had also heard of the name Yi Zhan. He was an extremely eye-catching dark horse in the battle between righteousness and evil in the Heavenly Demon Mountain. Moreover, he was also the fiancé of the Divine Phoenix Empire's Princess Fang Huang. Could it be that he killed Li Wangsheng and Zhao Wuji? Shen Ruliu widened her beautiful eyes and asked in a shocked tone. It was him. If it weren't for my disciple's strength and the fortunate encounter with Jishu, I'm afraid, even my disciple would have perished at his hands." Shen Jianshin slightly lowered her head, her eyes flashing with a complex mix of hatred and fear. After speaking, she buried her head deeply in Shen Ruliu's embrace, her delicate body trembling. At this moment, she truly looked like a vulnerable woman who had escaped from death, evoking a sense of pity. All right, Jianshin, don't be afraid. Your master is here. You can rest assured that Yi Zhan dared to make a move against you. Master, will never let him go." Shen Ruliu gritted her teeth and spoke with deep hatred. Shen Jianshin is the saintess of her Crimson Cloth Church, but what kind of person is Yi Zhan to dare to attack her beloved disciple? If it weren't for her lucky disciple, they would have been buried in the Godwood Forest along with the saint children of the other two major sects. Thinking of this, she felt a wave of fear in her heart, and at the same time, she tightened her grip on Shen Jianshin in her arms, her eyes filled with a terrifying killing intent. However, she didn't notice that the corners of Shen Jiangxin's mouth lifted with a sinister and triumphant curve. Nine Heavens Continent, Saint Sect. Zhan Zhang looked at the towering and majestic stone jade gate in front of him. He silently placed Mo Lingfeng in front of the gate, then turned and left. Shortly after he left, he heard the shocked and angry voices of the Saint Sect disciples. "It's Saint Child. Saint Child has returned. Why is Saint Child so badly injured? Who dared to attack our Saint Sect Saint Child? Everyone, quiet down," quickly informed the elders and the saintess. Listening to the voices behind him, Zhan Zhang shook his head and left the territory of the Saint Sect, heading towards his sect, the Great Thunderclap Monastery. What he didn't know was that at this moment, on Peach Blossom Mountain in the Saint Sect, several elders of the Saint Sect stood outside a wooden house in the bamboo forest with grim expressions. Rustle. The sound of footsteps rang out. A woman dressed in a moon-colored dress, ethereal like a fairy, walked over. Your Highness, the Saintess. Saint Child has returned. One of the Saint sect elders spoke softly. And then, Mo Qingxian calmly asked, Saint Child, he suffered extremely serious injuries. Half of his meridians are severed, his hand bones, chest bones, and rib bones are almost shattered. Although his life was saved, his future cultivation path is likely ruined. The elders of the Saint sect shook their heads, their tone filled with regret and indignation. Understood. You may leave. Mo Qingxian waved her hand. Upon hearing this, the elders of the Saint sect left the peach blossom forest one after another. Mo Qingxian pushed open the door and entered. As soon as she entered the wooden house, she saw Mo Lingfeng lying on the bed, extremely weak. Approaching slowly, Mo Qingxian looked at her brother, who was only left with half a life, with a cold expression. After a moment, she sat on a bamboo stool by the table, gently rubbing her temples with her jade hand, and softly opened her red lips. I told you when we were young. Not having talent is not a big deal, just work hard. Don't have such a strong sense of self-esteem. People who are eager to prove themselves will always be weak. Her cold voice fell. Tears welled up in the corners of Mo Lingfeng's eyes. He slowly opened his eyes, his lifeless gaze fixed on the roof of the wooden house. He had already woken up. When Zan Zhang placed him in the Saint sect, he had already woken up. Sister, what can I do in the future? Cultivation is ruined. Meridians are destroyed. Now I feel like a useless person. Upon hearing this, Mo Qingxian fell silent for a moment, then her lips parted slightly as she coldly spoke to Mo Lingfeng. I'm here. You will always be the Saint Child of the Saint sect. So what if your cultivation is ruined? You can start cultivating again. So what if your meridians are destroyed? I can help you rebuild them. Lastly, stop shedding your weak tears. Now tell me, who hurt you? Upon hearing these words, Mo Lingfeng took a deep breath and forced himself to recall. And at that moment, a strange light flashed in the depths of his eyes. His voice weak and mechanical, he responded. It's Yi Zan. Divine Phoenix Empire. The Yi family. Yi Zan. After speaking, a deep sense of exhaustion surged from the depths of his soul, and his eyelids felt as heavy as Mount Tai. Before long, his consciousness fell into darkness once again. Watching Mo Lingfeng fall into a deep sleep, Mo Qingxian fell silent for a long time. Then she turned her head to look at the bright moon in the sky and softly muttered to herself. Very well, Yi Zan. He injured my brother and ruined his future. As Mo Qingxian, I will exact 10 times the revenge. Divine Ice Palace. The moonlight was bright, casting a beautiful glow on a snow-capped mountain in the Divine Ice Palace. At this moment, an unparalleled figure stood with her hands behind her back on the mountaintop, and the cold wind made her pristine snow skirt rustle. Under the moonlight, her silver hair cascaded down to her perky buttocks. She had beautiful eyebrows, full of elegance and nobility. Her beautiful eyes were as icy as the cold wind on the mountaintop. Her delicate nose was exquisitely beautiful, with a touch of elegance, complemented by her slightly moist red lips, like petals after rain. Her entire face possessed a breathtaking and suffocating beauty. And she was the woman who emerged from the frozen land of ice, Mu Bing. Young Master Sister. Young Master Sister. Soft and excited voices came from behind Mu Bing. Upon hearing this, Mu Bing pursed her lips slightly and turned around slowly, only to see Mu Lengxin running towards her. Ah, young Master Sister is still the most fragrant and beautiful. Feeling the comforting warmth and familiar scent, Mu Lengxin's smile became even more radiant. You, why are you still so clingy like when you were a child? Mu Bing gently rubbed Mu Lengxin's soft hair and said indulgently. Is that so? It's just that I haven't seen you, young Master Sister, for so many years. I couldn't help it for a moment. Mu Lengxin replied while playfully smiling at Mu Bing. Both of us are saint women now. Remember to be more serious in the future. If others see us like this, won't they laugh? Mu Bing helplessly reached out and pinched Mu Lengxin's cheek. I know. Mu Lengxin puffed up her cheeks, still playful in her eyes. Although there was a generation gap between her and Mu Bing, they were similar in age, so she had always liked sticking to Mu Bing since she was a child. They seemed like aunt and niece, but they were actually sisters. Tell me, what exactly happened in the Divine Wood Forest? How did Li Wangsheng and Zhao Wuji die? And who injured Mo Lingfang? Mu Bing asked softly. She emerged from seclusion and heard about the chaos in the Nine Heavens continent. The deaths and injuries of the saint children and saint women of the righteous path were extremely tragic. And the person who caused all this, she suspected, was the man she had been thinking about for 10 years in the frozen land of ice. Mu Lengson thought for a moment, and a handsome and unparalleled face with a constant smile appeared in her mind. For a moment, she couldn't help but shudder. That person had a bright smile, but he killed without blinking, ruthlessly to the extreme. Young Master Sister, I was just about to tell you about this. In the Divine Wood Forest, that person injured Mo Lingfang, killed Li Wangsheng and Zhao Wuji. And almost killed all of us. Who is it? Mu Bing stared at Mu Lengson with a piercing gaze. Mu Lengson was about to blurt out the name that was already on the tip of her tongue. But suddenly, her mind went blank. She furrowed her brows and said with a trembling voice. Young Master Sister, that person seems to be named Yi Zan. Yi Zan. Upon hearing this, Mu Bing's eyebrows furrowed into a character, Chuan, and for a moment, she was somewhat stunned. After a long time, she finally spoke softly to herself. That person turns out not to be Jishu. How could this be? However, at the moment when the winds and clouds surged on the Nine Heavens continent. In the Zhou Garden, Jishu, accompanied by Elder Wei, Mu Xuanian, and the Supreme Heavens people, had already stepped onto the divine path and arrived in front of the massive Zhou tomb. This is the tomb of the man in the legendary level of the Nine Heavens continent. Mu Xuanian took a deep breath and couldn't help but feel her heart race as she looked at the huge bronze gate in front of her. Don't be too happy. The person in the legendary level is someone who has extraordinary means and dislikes being disturbed. There might be something waiting for us in his tomb. Elder Wei warned. That's right, we definitely need to be careful. Jishu nodded, then directly took out the 9 pieces of broken blade fragments he had collected. His gaze swept over the bronze gate in front of him, then locked onto the 9 grooves in the center of the bronze gate. Could it be that this martial emperor knew that he would fall and built himself a tomb? And it seems that he knew in advance that the broken blade would shatter into 9 pieces, so he specially designed this bronze gate. Jishu furrowed his brows and murmured softly. Then, he shook his head and stopped thinking about it, raising his hand and directly inserting the 9 pieces of broken blade fragments into the grooves in the center of the bronze gate. Boom! When the 9 pieces of broken blade fragments were inserted into the grooves, the ground began to shake, and the bronze gate started to tremble, showing signs of opening. Step back. Jishu furrowed his brows and spoke in a deep voice. Upon hearing this, Elder Wei, Mu Xuanian, and the Supreme Heavens experts all stepped back dozens of zhang. As for Ning Suyan, she stood expressionless by Jishu's side, not saying a word. Obviously, she had made up her mind to follow Jishu like this. At this moment, the bronze gate moved. Seeing this scene, everyone held their breath. Boom! Then a loud rumbling sound followed. The bronze gate of the Zhou tomb opened. An ancient aura rushed out from behind the gate. In that instant, the starry sky above the Zhou garden inexplicably dimmed. Your Highness, something seems off, Elder Wei whispered to Jishu's side. Even if something is off, so what? We've come this far. Do you want to give up? Jishu shook his head, then turned to Mu Xuanian and said. Mu Xuanian, let me carry you. If anything strange comes out later, you just protect yourself. Mu Xuanian heard this and lightly hummed, her beautiful eyes sparkling as she looked at Jishu. Obviously, she was quite pleased with Jishu's thoughtful and considerate gesture. But Fang Huang didn't think so. After all, there were differences between men and women. If Jishu carried her on his back, wouldn't that be too intimate? What's wrong? Princess Chong doesn't want to. Jishu looked at Fang Huang, who was biting her silver teeth tightly and looking at him with vigilance, and calmly asked. Jishu, I don't need you to carry me. I can walk by myself. Fang Huang said stubbornly. Shut up, but if you can stand firm, I'll admit you're impressive. Jishu sneered and then forcefully pulled Fang Huang onto his back. You, Fang Huang exclaimed, biting her silver teeth tightly, her eyes filled with shame and grievance. But in order not to fall off Jishu, she could only hold onto his neck tightly with her arms. At this moment, her body was pressed tightly against Jishu's back, and this kind of contact could only be described as intimate for Fang Huang. So fat. Jishu, carrying Fang Huang on his back, felt the softness behind him and couldn't help but snort. Jishu, you idiot, Fang Huang scolded coldly. She was confident about her own figure, so she knew that what Jishu said had nothing to do with her weight. About this, didn't the crown princess already know? Jishu said with a hint of amusement, and then he led Fang Huang into the bronze gate. Ning Suyin looked at Jishu and Fang Huang's figures and shook her head, then followed them. As soon as they stepped into the bronze gate, an endless darkness came into view. But soon, a holy light lit up at the end of the darkness as Jishu took a few steps forward. Then, more and more holy lights lit up, converging and spreading towards Jishu's feet, until finally, darkness faded away. Clang! The darkness disappeared completely. The holy light remained. Are you ready? Jishu suddenly spoke to Fang Huang on his back. Fang Huang frowned, not yet reacting. Jishu directly carried Fang Huang and started running in the corridor, and the speed became faster and faster. At the same time, due to the bumps, Fang Huang's jade hand holding onto Jishu's neck got closer and closer. At this moment, whether it was because of the surging blood or simply embarrassment, her unparalleled beautiful face became increasingly red. When Jishu ran to the end of the corridor, he slowly stopped. Fang Huang's full chest was heaving, cursing in her heart, this fool must be doing it on purpose. And at this moment, starlight appeared. The scene in front of Jishu and Fang Huang stunned them both. At the end of the corridor, there was a divine bridge, and beneath the bridge was an endless starry sea that couldn't be seen at a glance. Tens of thousands, even millions of starlights shone like diamonds under the divine path, extremely dazzling. So beautiful. Fang Huang's red lips opened slightly as she murmured, looking at the endless starry sea beneath the bridge, her expression somewhat dazed. The palace is built on the endless starry sea. What a grand gesture. Ning Suyin, who had been silent all along, couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. We're here. We finally arrived. Jishu's gaze locked onto the magnificent palace covered in endless starlight behind the divine bridge. And at this moment, Mu Xuanian, Elder Wei, and Shui Guniang, leading a large group of people, also arrived behind Jishu. The endless starry sea. So magnificent. No wonder it's Zhou Dufu's tomb. Mu Xuanian took a deep breath and murmured softly. So beautiful. Shui Guniang's beautiful eyes shimmered with starlight, filled with a sense of mystery. Your Highness, we have arrived. That man seems to be buried here. Above the star sea, deep within the imperial palace. At this moment, Wei Lao's voice trembled slightly. Let's go. Jishu was concise and to the point. He carried Fang Huang on his back and stepped directly over the divine path, pushing open the palace gate before them. Boom. The palace gate slowly opened with a slight friction sound. Behind the palace gate was a world that had not been visited for 1,000 years. They entered the imperial palace. What Jishu and Fang Huang saw was a stone coffin deep within the imperial palace, the size of a small mountain. The surface of the stone coffin emitted a faint glow, mysterious and oppressive. Zhou Dufu, the first independent cultivator martial emperor from 1,000 years ago. It seems he is sleeping here. Jishu said lightly, then he came to the enormous stone coffin with Fang Huang on his back. And at this moment, Jishu, Fang Huang, and Ning Suyin all noticed the ancient and profound runes engraved on the stone coffin. The runes were arranged in an orderly manner, forming an ancient emperor formation. This emperor formation was obviously used to protect the stone coffin. If someone dared to forcefully open the coffin, the emperor formation would activate and kill the intruder. Prince Jishu, you don't want to try the power of this emperor formation, do you? Ning Suyin asked Jishu with a meaningful look. Not interested. Jishu shook his head. His purpose in coming here was Zhou Dufu's splitting blade technique, not Zhou Dufu's great emperor body. After speaking, he shifted his gaze to several stone chambers in the main hall. It was likely that most of Zhou Dufu's inheritance was inside. Just at this moment, Mu Xuanian, Wei Lao, Shui Guniang, and the others also arrived in the main hall. As for the supreme experts, they all stayed outside the main hall. Wei Lao, Mu Xuanian, Shui, You go and open the stone chambers. Take everything inside. Jishu gave the order. Since they had come to the resting place of the great emperor, they naturally had to thoroughly search it. Upon hearing this, everyone began to act. The first stone chamber was filled with scrolls, techniques, formations, sword techniques, and blade techniques, everything one could imagine. The second stone chamber was filled with weapons that had been lost on the Nine Heavens continent, divine swords, famous blades, and war spears, totaling hundreds. The third stone chamber was even more impressive, with pieces of high-grade jade that dazzled the eyes, and even a small amount of dragon-patterned black gold, phoenix blood gold, immortal tear green gold, and eternal blue gold, these top-grade materials. With these, the military power of the military intelligence department can at least increase tenfold, no, even 100-fold. Jishu smiled knowingly. Not to mention the scrolls and techniques, just the hundreds of lost high-level weapons would greatly increase the strength of the military intelligence department. As for materials like dragon-patterned black gold and immortal tear green gold, it went without saying. Of course, for these extremely precious top-grade materials, he planned to keep them for himself, otherwise it would be too wasteful. Half an hour later, Wei Lao, Mu Xuanian, and Shui Guniang returned with their hands full. Your Highness, I have searched through everything. I did not find the 2 broken sword techniques in my stone chamber. Elder Wei regretfully reported to Jishu. Neither did I. Mu Xuanian shook her head. Don't look at me. My place is filled with weapons. Shui Guniang also shook her head. Upon hearing this, Jishu furrowed his brows slightly and muttered to himself. If none of us have it, then where could the 2 broken sword techniques be? After saying that, Jishu seemed to have thought of something and suddenly turned to look at the coffin-like stone structure that resembled a small mountain. So, the 2 broken sword techniques can only be hidden within this great emperor's coffin. Jishu spoke slowly. Then, just as he was about to take out the great principal sword fetus and break the emperor's formation. Clang! A burst of starlight bloomed from the emperor's formation on top of the stone structure. The starlight imprinted a teleportation formation on the ground beneath Jishu and Ning Suyan's feet. Be careful, Your Highness! Elder Wei shouted first upon seeing this. But before his words could finish, clang! Jishu, Fang Huang, and Ning Suyan's figures disappeared from their original positions. What's going on? Mu Xuanian widened her eyes and exclaimed. They disappeared, Shui Guniang muttered in a daze. If I'm not mistaken, they should have been teleported into the emperor's coffin. Elder Wei took a deep breath, his face looking extremely grim. Inside the emperor's coffin, endless darkness, unable to see one's own fingers. Where are we? Although Fang Huang's voice trembled slightly, it still sounded calm. It should be inside Zhou Dufu's emperor's coffin. Ning Suyan responded to Fang Huang in the darkness. Sounds reasonable. Jishu nodded and reached out to feel the surroundings, wanting to see what the situation was. Ah! Fang Huang exclaimed, crossing her arms in front of her chest. In the darkness, her unparalleled beauty was covered in a blush. She gritted her teeth and scolded. Jishu, you shameless scoundrel. Sorry, my mistake. Jishu's hand stiffened, and he awkwardly retracted it, but the softness still lingered on his hand. At this moment, he turned around and unexpectedly bumped into someone's soft embrace. The 2 bodies collided, losing their balance together and falling straight to the ground. Jishu, get up, you're pressing on my hair. Ning Suyan took a deep breath, trying to keep her tone as calm as possible. Sorry, my legs went weak. Jishu said so. Imperial coffin, a lost place, in the darkness. Jishu, do you want to hear what you just said? Listening to Jishu's words, Ning Xian felt a surge of anger. She thought to herself, with cultivation at the monarch rank and combat power comparable to the saint rank, would Jishu really be weak-kneed? This is clearly him being disrespectful to her. What does Jishu take her for? Is she the kind of woman who can be easily insulted and disrespected by him? That thought stopped there. Ning Xian circulated her true essence, intending to teach Jishu a lesson, but something strange happened the next second. The true essence she had just gathered disappeared in an instant. This feeling was very strange, as if lighting a candle only to have it extinguished by a gust of wind. And no matter how many times she tried, it was the same. This made her panic a little. Jishu, can you use true conversion? Ningxian gritted her teeth and asked in a low voice. No, and weak need. Jishu shook his head. He felt that there was some strange force here that restricted the circulation of their true essence. And the moment he entered, he inexplicably felt numb all over his body, and faintly smelled a faint tea fragrance. After speaking, he forced himself to stand up despite feeling weak and tired all over. My body also feels a little weak. And it's too quiet here. Fang Huang frowned, tightly clenched her jade fist, feeling very uneasy. Upon hearing this, Ningxian, who had just stood up, also felt a numbness in her body. Jishu, can you use your strange fire? No. Jishu shook his head again. The first thing he wanted to do when he entered here was to awaken the strange fire in his body. But strangely, whether it was the world-purifying demon flame or the azure lotus earth heart fire, they seemed to be asleep and couldn't be summoned at all. Upon hearing this, both Fang Huang and Ningxian fell into silence for a moment. Obviously, this nameless place was very strange. What should we do now? Fang Huang asked. What else can we do? Continue forward. Jishu calmly spoke, then reached out in the darkness and pulled Fang Huang to his side, and directly carried her on his back. Ah! Fang Huang let out a soft cry and instinctively wrapped her hands around Jishu's neck. Perhaps in front of Zhou Ling, she and Jishu were enemies. But here, Jishu had become her only reliance. For a moment, Fang Huang felt a sense of irony and complexity in her heart. Continue forward. Absolutely not, Ningxian said in a low voice. In her opinion, the three of them couldn't see anything now, their true essence couldn't circulate, and Jishu couldn't even summon his strange fire. If there really was some strange creature sleeping in this place, disturbing them would likely be more harmful than good. It doesn't matter. Jishu shook his head and carried Fang Huang slowly forward in the darkness. Although his true essence couldn't circulate and his strange fire couldn't be summoned, he had the great principal sword fetus by his side. Strange things were nothing he was afraid of. And waiting to die was not his style. I really can't do anything with you. Ningxian shook her head and could only cautiously follow Jishu's footsteps. They walked silently for about an hour and entered a new area. There's grass under our feet. Jishu stepped on slightly damp soil, then bent down and plucked a blade of grass, sniffing it in his nose. A fresh aroma of earth permeated his nostrils. It seems, we should not be inside the imperial coffin. Fang Huang said softly. Not necessarily. This place could very well be a small world within the imperial coffin. Ningxian shook her head. Whatever it is, we need to find a way out. Escaping alive is more important. Jishu calmly responded. And just at that moment, an unknown giant creature appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Jishu raised his hand and felt the icy touch, causing him to furrow his brows. This seems to be a bone. Jishu exclaimed in surprise. As his words fell, time seemed to freeze for a moment. Clang! The whole world seemed to come alive. A gentle breeze brushed their cheeks. The rich scent of herbs and the faint aroma of tea filled their hearts. A few strands of pale red light scattered upon them from the end of the horizon. Soon, a setting sun hung at the end of the sky. And this new world appeared before Jishu, Fang Huang, and Ningxian. This is an unknown small world. Or rather, this is the true Zhou Garden. The grassland stretched endlessly, the gentle breeze was soothing, the sunset was beautiful, and it was secluded from the world. However, Jishu and the others were not in the mood to appreciate the beauty of Zhou Garden. Because in front of them, there was a giant creature, or rather, the head of a creature that had weathered countless years. This head was huge and ferocious, obviously not human, resembling the skull of an ancient fierce beast. This is the head of a dragon. Jishu's expression suddenly froze as he exclaimed in surprise. Upon hearing this, Fang Huang and Ningxian also looked at the enormous creature before them. This dragon corpse, which stretched for hundreds of meters, lay on the grassland, having endured countless years under the setting sun. Its flesh and blood had long decayed into bones, but even so, it still exuded a shocking sense of power. What's worth mentioning is that on top of the dragon's skull, there was a deep groove, and upon closer inspection, it appeared to be a naturally formed and deadly scar. Even after countless years, This scar still emitted a sharp knife intent that made people dare not look directly at it. It is said that Zhou Dufu once casually slayed a dragon in the South Sea. Could it be that he killed this dragon? Jishu murmured in a low voice. Just as his thoughts were turning, his pupils suddenly contracted as he noticed the mysterious and profound runes and ancient patterns carved on the dragon's white bones. The intertwining of runes and patterns, even after thousands of years, still exuded a trace of imperial might. These are the two splitting blade techniques. Jishu exclaimed in astonishment, his heartbeat skipping a beat. That's right, such terrifying and immortal knife intent. Other than Zhou Dufu's forbidden imperial law, the two splitting blade techniques, there is nothing else. Fang Huang also took a deep breath, her beautiful eyes filled with uncontrollable excitement. What's wrong? Do you think you can learn it in your current state? Jishu slightly tilted his head and asked Fang Huang, who was on his back, with a somewhat amused tone. HMPH. Fang Huang snorted lightly. Even if my state is poor, I can still comprehend the true meaning of the two splitting blade techniques. Up to you. Jishu shrugged and directly threw Fang Huang to the ground. You. Fang Huang winced in pain. She couldn't help but glare at Jishu, but in the end, she didn't say anything more. She sat cross-legged in front of the huge dragon corpse, her eyes fixed on the runes and patterns on the dragon bones, as if her entire being had been immersed in them. Seeing Fang Huang so fascinated, Jishu shook his head with a smile. There was no doubt that the crown princess of the Divine Phoenix Empire had an absolute obsession with this imperial law. Ning Xian slowly walked to Jishu's side and asked with a playful tone, "Aren't you afraid that she will learn the two splitting blade techniques and kill you with a single strike in the future?" He. Jishu shook his head. If he didn't have this confidence, how could he go further in the future? Two splitting blade techniques. Aren't you learning? Jishu glanced at Ning Xian and asked. I'm not smart. I might not be able to learn it. But I can try. It's not bad to use it to verify myself. Ning Xian casually replied. Jishu heard her words but didn't say anything. He sat down next to Fang Huang and began to focus on practicing the two splitting blade techniques. Time flies by quickly. In just 3 days, time has passed in the blink of an eye. Ding! Congratulations to the host for comprehending 10% of the two splitting blade technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for comprehending 20% of the two splitting blade technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for comprehending 30% of the two splitting blade technique. Ding! Congratulations to the host for comprehending 100% of the two splitting blade technique. Listening to the voice of the system's prompt in his ears, Jishu slowly opened his eyes, feeling somewhat strange. He managed to comprehend the two splitting blade technique in just 3 days. Even though he possessed a divine heart and extraordinary intelligence, it's still unbelievable that he could comprehend an emperor-grade forbidden technique like the two splitting blade technique in just 3 days. Just as his thoughts were swirling, Fang Huang slowly opened her eyes. At this moment, her pretty face was pale, filled with exhaustion, but her beautiful eyes were full of excitement. Jishu, I have already practiced more than half of the two splitting blade technique. What about you? Fang Huang stared at Jishu with her dazed eyes and asked. Not as amazing as you. Jishu casually glanced at Fang Huang. He had been thinking about whether there was anything in the Zhou garden that could help with his comprehension, and he couldn't be bothered with Fang Huang. I knew it. Fang Huang's lips curled into a faint smile. She thought to herself that she still had one advantage over Jishu, and that was her comprehension ability. And when she thought about this, she couldn't help but feel inexplicably happy. Upon hearing this, Ning Xian also opened her beautiful eyes. She looked at Fang Huang, who had a faint smile on her lips, with great interest, and whispered softly. Perhaps, even this girl herself hasn't noticed that her hostility towards Jishu has decreased a lot, and she has become gentler. I'm really curious about what the future holds for her and Jishu. After speaking, Ning Xian closed her eyes again and began to comprehend. As for Jishu, he walked towards the depths of the grassland alone. He smelled a hint of tea fragrance, which made him suspicious. If there really are enlightenment treasures of that level in the Zhou garden, then I've hit the jackpot. Meanwhile, Fang Huang and Ning Xian stayed behind to comprehend in front of the dragon's corpse. Jishu, on the other hand, followed the faint tea fragrance and headed towards the depths of the grassland. Finally, after a day, in the southernmost part of the endless grassland, Jishu saw a giant ancient tree with a huge shade. The ancient tree stood alone on the boundless grassland, and one could see a condensed and substantial aura swirling around the tree. At the same time, the extremely rich tea fragrance made Jishu's whole body tingle. I really found it, Jishu murmured in excitement. Then, he forcibly suppressed the tingling sensation in his body and walked to the foot of the enlightenment tea tree. Taking a deep breath, the clear aura entered his body, and the tea fragrance filled his nose. For a moment, he felt light all over, as if he had ascended to immortality. A treasure of the 9 heavens. The enlightenment tea tree. Jishu exclaimed in joy. The enlightenment tea tree, a cultivation artifact. In the legendary level, practicing under the enlightenment tea tree for an hour is equivalent to cultivating outside for a month. And if one drinks a cup of enlightenment tea, they can enter the state of unity between heaven and man in their comprehension. No matter what cultivation technique one practices, it can gain at least 10 times the benefits. What a coincidence! This young master happens to have a forbidden technique that I want to cultivate. Jishu smiled faintly, then immediately opened the system's store. His gaze firmly locked onto a forbidden technique that he had long desired. Heavenly Emperor Fist. 100,000 Essence of Destiny. Without any hesitation, Jishu immediately purchased the Heavenly Emperor Fist. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully purchasing the Heavenly Emperor Fist, a forbidden technique that covers the sky, with 100,000 Essence of Destiny. Listening to the prompt from the system, Jishu looked up at the 108 tea leaves on the enlightenment tea tree. Without hesitation, he plucked them all and stored them in his system's warehouse. Then, he took out a tea leaf from it, his lips curling up. Compared to the 2-splitting blade technique, the Heavenly Emperor Fist can be considered a true forbidden imperial law. After all, the Heavenly Emperor Fist is a forbidden imperial law created by the Leaf Heavenly Emperor, who overlooks the myriad realms. Begin cultivation. Jishu took a deep breath and swallowed the enlightenment tea leaf, sitting cross-legged under the enlightenment tea tree to begin cultivation. In that instant, Jishu felt as if he was in an infinite universe, with a blurry figure standing at the end of time. Above his head hung the Mother Chi cauldron of all things. Countless immortal lights descended upon him. He had many enemies around him, and they were all powerful. But the moment his emperor's fist struck, the heavens and earth fell silent, and all enemies were annihilated. However, Jishu, who had entered a deep state of enlightenment cultivation, did not notice. At this moment, a faint supreme divine aura emanated from him. Now, 7 days later, Fang Huang slowly opened her eyes as she sat in front of the dragon bone. She let out a breath and muttered to herself. The 2-splitting blade technique. I have finally succeeded in cultivation. Upon hearing this, Ning Xian smiled and said, "Congratulations, Your Highness, the Crown Princess." Hee. Fang Huang chuckled lightly, then subconsciously looked around with her beautiful eyes, and asked, "Where is he?" Ning Xian shook her head and looked at Fang Huang teasingly. "Why, do you miss him?" "Of course not." Fang Huang looked at Ning Xian in surprise. She didn't understand why Ning Xian would think that way about her. She hated Jishu to the point of no return. Hee. Ning Xian smiled and shook her head, not saying anything more. "Sister Xuan, how is your cultivation of the 2-splitting blade technique going?" Fang Huang asked softly. "I haven't cultivated it. I just used this technique to test myself." Ning Xian shook her head. "In that case, have you noticed anything extraordinary about this 2-splitting blade technique? This technique can be cultivated not only forwards. It seems that cultivating it backwards is also possible. Moreover, I have a feeling that cultivating the 2-splitting blade technique backwards might even be more powerful than normal cultivation. Because it will become a completely new blade technique." Fang Huang's eyes sparkled as she confidently shared her discovery with Ning Xian. "I have also noticed. But if you cultivate it backwards, you must reverse your profound energy. This is very dangerous, as a slight mistake can lead to demonic possession." Ning Xian reminded Fang Huang seriously. "It's okay. I have confidence in myself. Fang Huang smiled at Ning Xian and then sat down in front of the dragon bone once again. In her opinion, cultivation is a process of constantly breaking through one's own limitations. Only by constantly creating and exploring can one make a breakthrough. Fang Huang took a deep breath and began cultivating the two-splitting blade technique in reverse. This girl, she reminds me of my past self. Ning Xian murmured as she looked at Fang Huang, as if reminiscing. And at that moment, the temperature in the air suddenly rose. It's hot. It's getting a bit hot. Fang Huang furrowed her brows slightly. She sensed the change in body temperature, but she didn't pay much attention to it and continued without stopping. What she didn't know was that in the process of reversing her profound energy and cultivating the two-splitting blade technique, she unintentionally entered a new realm, the path of demons. And what awaited her ahead seemed to have only one outcome, falling into darkness. Zhou Yuan, under the tree of enlightenment. A tall figure sat quietly, as if a rock, with a solemn expression, motionless. In front of him, a phantom scripture floated, ancient and mottled, flipping through page by page. Strands of the mother chi of the great Tao cascaded down around him, as if shielding the heavenly secrets and isolating cause and effect. At this moment, Jishu was in a state of unity between heaven and man, completely immersed in the deepest level of enlightenment. Clang! A burst of golden blood chi erupted, only to see the golden blood chi condense into a figure, standing behind Jishu. This figure had sharp eyes, an unparalleled aura, and exuded an overwhelming great emperor's momentum. At this moment, the figure moved, and he began to evolve an unparalleled and peerless fist technique, opening and closing, swallowing the world with his chi. Clang, clang, clang. Every punch he threw seemed to stir the traces of the great Tao, unparalleled in the world. Gradually, he evolved the Emperor's fist in his hand to the extreme, encompassing 1,000 avenues and 10,000 divine principles, causing a constant lamentation beneath his fists. When the phantom scripture in front of Jishu flipped to the last page, the phantom figure behind him also suddenly threw out its final punch. Clang! This punch seemed to condense eternity, freeze time and space, and suppress the myriad of heavens and paths. Clang! The figure disappeared. The illusory ancient scripture also disappeared. The overwhelming great emperor's aura slowly converged into Jishu's body. At the same time, a crisp system prompt sounded in Jishu's ears. Ding! Congratulations, host, for reaching 30% comprehension progress of the Heavenly Emperor Fist. Upon hearing this, Jishu slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, he was like the Heavenly Emperor who had awakened after a long sleep, his gaze sharp, like a divine sword unsheathed, radiating brilliance to the extreme. The enlightenment is over. The Heavenly Emperor Fist can be considered as a foundation. Jishu slowly exhaled a breath of impure air. To achieve a foundation in the Heavenly Emperor Fist within 7 days was already quite impressive. After all, it was the forbidden imperial law of that Heavenly Emperor, and it was unlikely to fully comprehend it in one step. As for the future, he would need to gradually verify this imperial law in battle. Of course, even now, even if it was only the Heavenly Emperor Fist after a preliminary enlightenment, it was enough to be used as a powerful trump card. I wonder, how are Fang Huang and Ning Xian doing? Jishu muttered to himself, then returned along the same path. Zhou Yuan, in front of the 100-jong long dragon body. Fang Huang, who was reversing her cultivation of the profound skill in practicing the two-splitting blade technique, did not notice at all that her own body was surrounded by demonic light at this moment. 9 illusory demonic blades hovered around her, suspended in the air without stopping. Strands of the strongest blade intent condensed into terrifying demonic blade light, shooting straight into the sky, even dimming the stars in the sky for thousands of miles. Fang Huang, stop quickly, don't continue. Ning Xian frowned and shouted loudly. At first, although she thought there was a risk of going astray in Fang Huang's reversal of cultivation and practicing the two-splitting blade technique, she did not stop her. This was because she believed that Fang Huang possessed the bloodline of the Heavenly Phoenix, and Fang Huang's talent for cultivation was also extremely powerful. Even if she reversed her cultivation, if she felt something was wrong, she could stop in time, and there wouldn't be any serious consequences. But now, she realized that things had completely exceeded her expectations. After reversing her cultivation, Fang Huang couldn't stop at all. Obviously, this two-splitting sword technique possesses a strong and mysterious demonic nature. Once the cultivation is reversed, it will fall into the demonic path. As soon as the words fell, Fang Huang didn't react at all. The demonic light on her body became even more dazzling, and the demonic aura became even stronger. If they were outside, she might be able to forcefully intervene with her saint-rank cultivation. But here, she couldn't even activate her true conversion yuan, and could only watch as Fang Huang stepped closer to the abyss. What should we do now? Ning Xian bit her lip, feeling a bit at a loss for a moment. As soon as the words fell, clang, gorgeous phoenix wings unfolded behind Fang Huang, with flames flowing and extremely beautiful. However, the phoenix wings behind her, half of it was resplendent with divine radiance, shining brightly. The other half was filled with demonic light, with overwhelming demonic aura. It's over. A trace of paleness flashed across Ning Xian's pretty face. Fang Huang had obviously reached the final step. Even if she could use her saint-rank true yuan, it wouldn't help Fang Huang. Just at this moment, Fang Huang slowly opened her eyes. At this moment, her beautiful eyes lacked the previous coldness and arrogance, but instead had an extreme allure and a hint of confusion. Fang Huang, you, Ning Xian spoke softly. But she didn't finish her words. She saw Fang Huang slowly turning around to look at her. At this moment, Fang Huang's golden hair swayed in the wind, and her wings, half divine and half demonic. Her perfectly beautiful face was pale to the extreme. She looked like a fallen demon goddess returning from the depths of the underworld, with a mix of phoenix flames and demonic energy in her eyes, extremely eerie. And around her, the 9 demonic blades had almost solidified, constantly rising and falling. Sister Xuan, hot, so uncomfortable. Fang Huang covered her chest, her lips slightly parted as she spoke to Ning Xian in a daze. At this moment, she felt as if the blood in her body had been activated, violently surging, and waves of heat were pounding her internal organs. And a burning pain that she couldn't bear surged from the depths of her soul and spread throughout her body. She had never felt such pain before. Even when her phoenix wings were torn apart by Jishu in front of Zhou Ling, it wasn't as painful as this. And what frightened her the most was that she could feel her sanity slowly sinking into darkness. It's over. It's truly over. Ning Xian looked at Fang Huang's state, her chest heaving heavily, her voice trembling. She could see the problem at a glance. Fang Huang was of the Phoenix bloodline, and her bloodline possessed a highly divine power. But she reversed her cultivation, practiced the two-splitting sword technique, and unfortunately fell into the demonic path. So when her bloodline awakened, it would reject the demonic power within her body. Under the extreme conflict between the two opposing forces, the consequences were unimaginable. If this continues, Fang Huang's body cannot withstand it. The phoenix blood surges, the phoenix flames scorch her own body, the power of the demonic path collides, and in the end, she will perish. That was the end of her thoughts. Ning Xian's pupils suddenly contracted. She gritted her teeth, determined to do everything in her power to try and save Fang Huang's life. But at that moment, Jishu returned. What happened to this woman? Jishu looked at the 9 floating demonic knives surrounding Fang Huang, his body trembling, almost falling into the demonic path. Fang Huang frowned and asked. The two-splitting blade technique. Ning Xian shook her head. Upon hearing this, Jishu instantly understood what was going on. In fact, when he was practicing the two-splitting blade technique, he discovered that if he reversed his cultivation of the profound qi, it would form a new demonic blade technique. However, he was cultivating the immortal devouring demonic technique, and had already reached the 5th level. So he didn't need to reverse cultivate the two-splitting blade technique again. He only needed to reverse his profound qi and directly unleash that mysterious demonic blade technique. But Fang Huang was different. She possessed the bloodline of the heavenly phoenix and had never practiced any demonic techniques or come into contact with any demonic power. Now, she had stepped into the demonic path for the first time, with divinity and demonic nature coexisting within her. Her body simply couldn't bear it. Under the pull and collision of these two forces, the only outcome awaiting Fang Huang was death. Do you have a solution? Ning Xian asked in a low voice. Maybe. Jishu nodded. After saying that, Jishu slowly walked to Fang Huang's side and raised his hand, directly shattering the 9 floating demonic knives surrounding her. Pucci. Fang Huang's delicate body trembled, and a trace of beautiful blood overflowed from the corner of her mouth. Jishu. Seeing the person in front of her, Fang Huang seemed to regain some of her sanity. Fang Huang, remember my words. Don't do anything next. Leave everything to me. After Jishu finished speaking, he activated the immortal devouring demonic technique and pressed his palm directly on Fang Huang's chest. Now, there was only one method that could save Fang Huang's life. That was to use the power of the immortal devouring demonic technique to reshape Fang Huang's cultivation meridians and forcefully make her divinity and demonic nature coexist within her body. But the problem was, even he didn't know what changes would occur in Fang Huang's body after doing this. Fang Huang bit her red lips and groaned in pain. At this moment, she could clearly sense that many meridians in her body were crushed by Jishu and then reborn. And a mysterious force forcibly calmed the surging phoenix blood and demonic power within her. This made her feel hundreds of times better than the excruciating pain before, and even had an indescribable sense of relief. Half an hour later, Jishu withdrew his palm. Fang Huang weakly fell into Jishu's embrace. She could feel that the two forces within her body had stopped pulling and colliding, finally entering a state of calm. But, she also felt as if there was something more within her body. Thank you. Fang Huang weakly spoke. How do you feel? Jishu shook his head and asked softly. Fang Huang remained silent, with her eyes slightly lowered, not responding. Speak. How do you feel? Jishu asked with a frown. As the words fell, there was a flicker of magic in the depths of Fang Huang's beautiful eyes, her red lips slightly pursed, forming a seductive curve. I feel like being reborn. Hehehehe. This. Jishu and Ningxian's faces changed upon hearing this laughter. This voice was indeed Fang Huang's voice. But this voice lacked the previous cold elegance, and at this moment, it was filled with an enchanting charm that could captivate souls. Just as Jishu and Ningxian were stunned, they saw Fang Huang actually reach out and hook her slender jade hand around Jishu's neck. Those pair of mesmerizing eyes, which could conquer the world, stared at Jishu without blinking, with a glimmer of light that Jishu couldn't understand flickering within. Jishu had just uttered a word when his voice abruptly stopped. Because, his mouth was forcefully covered by Fang Huang. Ningxian exclaimed in shock upon seeing Fang Huang take the initiative to kiss Jishu, her beautiful eyes trembling. At this moment, she was completely unable to understand what was happening. After a passionate kiss, Jishu stood there as if petrified. Even Fang Huang was stunned. She didn't know why she had just done that. This feeling was like having another person living in her body, temporarily taking control of her body. As the thought arose, a glimmer of magic flashed through her beautiful eyes again. Her smile remained, her voice gentle and even more charming. Jishu, tell me, at this moment, who am I in your eyes? You owe this seat. Today, repay it all. She was referring to the incident where Zhou Ling had ruthlessly attacked her and tore her phoenix wings. What do you mean? Jishu stared blankly at Fang Huang, not understanding what she meant by repaying her. Have you heard of replenishing magic? As the words fell, Fang Huang pounced on Jishu in front of Ningxian's shocked gaze, with madness and passion. At this moment, Jishu seemed to understand something. Fang Huang was no longer the noble and extraordinary divine Phoenix Empire's princess anymore. Or rather, she was no longer just that. From today onwards, there was another person in Fang Huang's body. That person possessed a bewitching and demonic power, and could be called another Fang Huang, the demonic path Fang Huang. But upon careful consideration, this didn't seem like a bad thing. The thought stopped there. Jishu lay weakly on the ground, looking up at the bright and pure moon hanging in the sky, his gaze gradually becoming hazy and captivated. He murmured like he was in a dream, the moonlight tonight is so beautiful. However, when the moonlight bloomed in Zhouyuan, Divine Ice Palace was also illuminated by that moonlight. Mu Bing stood in front of a woman, her eyes lowered to hide the sadness in her eyes. Binger, no need to be sad. Our master has not fallen yet. And, our master has to thank you for bringing back the 10,000-year mysterious ice. The woman smiled gently and reached out to gently rub Mu Bing's hair. And she was Mu Chu, the former palace master of Divine Ice Palace and Jishu's great aunt. Now, Mu Chu's injuries have worsened to the extreme. If she doesn't choose to be frozen and sleep, freezing her life, I'm afraid she won't last even 3 days. Master, wait for your awakening. Binger will definitely heal your injuries. Mu Bing raised her head and looked at Mu Chu, her eyes filled with determination. This time, she returned from the land of ice with the 10,000-year mysterious ice. In her previous life, she failed to save Mu Chu, so she regretted it all her life. In this life, no matter what, she must heal her master, Mu Chu. She knew that although she couldn't do it now, as soon as she stepped into the Great Emperor realm, she would be able to. Good, I believe Binger can do it. Master is waiting for you. Mu Chu smiled with relief. After speaking, she suddenly thought of something and spoke again. Binger, your engagement with Shoer, is it almost time? Mu Bing nodded. The Ji family's tiger token hasn't been lost, right? Mu Chu continued to ask. No, Mu Bing responded softly. That's good. Since that's the case, tomorrow, take the tiger token and go to the capital of Northern Sha. Master hopes that you and Shoer will marry soon. While saying this, Mu Chu reached out and gently touched Mu Bing's exquisite and unparalleled face with affection. When she found Mu Bing in the ice mountain, Mu Bing was still a little girl. Now she was about to get married. For a moment, she couldn't help but feel the passing of time. I understand, Master. Binger will go. Mu Bing bit her silver teeth and her jade hand involuntarily clenched. Good, very good. Once you and Shoer are married, Master can completely rest assured. Whether it's your future, or Divine Ice Palace, they will be entrusted to him. Mu Chu took a deep breath, then turned and walked into the ice coffin, lying down slowly. Master, take care. Mu Bing looked at Mu Chu lying in the ice coffin and felt a bit of a sore nose for a moment. Upon hearing this, Mu Chu smiled and nodded, feeling a wave of drowsiness coming over her, slowly closing her eyes, and just as her consciousness slowly froze, she spoke softly, as if in a dream. Goodbye, my Binger. Upon hearing this, Mu Bing finally couldn't hold back, her eyes turned red, and tears overflowed. Memories surged like a tide. In the snowy mountains where the mist lingered all year round, a woman in a snowy dress saw a little girl sitting in an ice pile for the first time. The girl was as pure as snow, holding a piece of mysterious ice in her mouth, as if it was the most delicious thing in the world. Little one, where is your mother? No mother. Do you want to leave here with me? Where to? Home. Okay, well, what's your name? I don't know. That's fine. From now on, I'll call you Binger. In the future, I will be your master, and your mother. Mu Bing took a deep breath, wiped away her tears with her hand, and then looked at Mu Chu lying in the ice coffin one last time before turning and leaving the palace. Next, she had to go to Northern Sha, to the capital, to find someone. She and him, in the end, must have a resolution. The moon was bright. Heavenly Demon Mountain, the peak of the supreme heaven, the Demon Mountain. Under the bright moonlight, two tall figures stood facing each other. One person was wearing a black long dress, the dress trailing on the ground, outlining the curves of her voluptuous and breathtaking body. Her face was cold and unparalleled, her beautiful eyes seemed to freeze people's hearts and souls. And she was Nan Lingyu, the queen of the supreme heaven. The other person was wearing a red long dress, her fiery hair flowing in the wind. Her skin was as crystal clear as white snow, her appearance ethereal and enchanting. A pair of phoenix eyes looked at Nan Lingyu with a playful gaze, her red lips slightly pursed. And she was the flame concubine. Your Majesty. It seems that you really don't have the pure world demon flame. Well, it seems I have to go find that little one from the Ji family. The flame concubine waved her hand casually and said, Hee hee, what do you take me, the supreme heaven, for? Come and go as you please. Nan Lingyu stood with her hands behind her back, looking coldly at the flame concubine. You are strong, but I am not weak either. Even if you defeat me, you still can't keep me. Why waste your energy? The flame concubine smiled slightly at Nan Lingyu. Jishu belongs to me. Go find him. I will take your life. Nan Lingyu said expressionlessly. He, Your Majesty, you should understand him. I have his people in my hands. Even if I don't go find him, he will come find me. Why bother with this? Yan Fei shook her head. Upon hearing this, Nan Lingyu momentarily lost her composure. And Yan Fei's red lips curled up with a playful smile. Clang! A teleportation array appeared under her feet, a beam of moonlight swept past, and she disappeared. Only a lingering laughter remained in the air. Goodbye, Queen Nan Lingyu. Emperor-grade teleportation array. This woman is not simple. Nan Lingyu frowned. At this moment, a sound of breaking wind rang out. Luo Yuzhu arrived by Nan Lingyu's side. Your Majesty. I found out. The Blood Asura by Jishu's side has news. Speak. Nan Lingyu turned to look at Luo Yuzhu. Yan Fei captured Ji Yujian in Shuiyu City. Then she went to the Great Qin dynasty. She sold Ji Yujian to the Crown Prince of Great Qin, Yingse. And then, Nan Lingyu continued to ask. Now, Yingse has taken Ji Yujian to the capital of Northern Sha. Now, the Military Intelligence Department of Jishu's Crown Prince Manor has received the news. Ji Yuyao seems to be taking action, but the specific result is unknown. Now, the atmosphere in the capital of Northern Sha is very wrong. I can sense that a storm is coming. Luo Yuzhu responded. Besides Yingse, who else went to the capital? Nan Lingyu's eyes flashed with a cold light as she spoke. The Prince of the Divine Phoenix Empire, Fang Huang. Luo Yuzhu replied in a low voice. No, something is not right. I need to personally go to the capital now. Nan Lingyu's voice was icy. Now, don't you want to wait for Jishu, Your Highness? Luo Yuzhu was very surprised. No more waiting. He will eventually return to the capital too. Nan Lingyu shook her head, then turned around and disappeared on the spot. Jishu, what kind of luck have you had, to be treated like this by the queen? Luo Yuzhu murmured softly as she watched Nan Lingyu's figure disappear into the distance. One day later, capital of Northern Sha. In the Imperial Palace, in the Weiyang Palace, Chu Li looked at Yuji Niang with a cold expression and asked, What did you say? The Crown Prince of Great Qin, Yingse, has brought Ji Yujian to the capital. Yes, Yuji Niang nodded, then hesitated and said, Not only that. According to the intelligence from the net, the Prince of the Divine Phoenix Empire, Fang Huang, has also arrived in the capital. It seems that Yingse wants to give Fang Huang a gift. What gift? Chu Li furrowed his brows suddenly. The Supreme Bone. Yuji Niang's voice trembled. Yingse has such audacity. Chu Li was extremely shocked. It's not over yet. Yuji Niang swallowed her saliva. What else? Chu Li's body trembled. Miss Ji Yuyao. She participated in the rescue operation with the elites of the Military Intelligence Department. And then, Chu Li suddenly looked at Yuji Niang. All the elite members of the Military Intelligence Department were wiped out. Yuji Niang spoke softly. What about Ji Yuyao? Did she perish? Chu Li widened her eyes and asked loudly. According to the intelligence, Miss Ji Yuyao was injured. It seems she was seriously injured. But fortunately, someone stepped in to save her at the critical moment. Yuji Niang responded. It's over. The capital is about to be turned upside down. Chu Li shook her head and took a deep breath. Why? Yuji Niang was somewhat puzzled. She took the supreme bone from Ji Yujian. She severely injured Ji Yuyao. When Jishu returns, many people will die. Many people, Chu Li said expressionlessly. The first ray of morning light falls on Zhou Yuan. It also falls on Jishu and Fang Huang's faces. At this moment, there are traces of tears on Fang Huang's beautiful face, as well as a faint blush after joy. A gentle breeze blows by. Fang Huang slowly opens her eyes, looks up at the clear sky, and after a moment, memories of last night flood into her mind like a tide. At this moment, she suddenly turns her head to look at the sleeping Jishu, her expression freezing, and her throat rolling. How could I be like this last night? Fang Huang's beautiful eyes widen, filled with disbelief and a hint of confusion. If the memories weren't real, she would suspect that what happened last night was just a dream. She has never had any expectations or thoughts about matters between men and women. But now, as she looks at the shattered pieces of golden armor on the ground, she can't help but take a cold breath. Have I been possessed by a demon? Fang Huang's voice trembles at this moment, and her protective armor is broken. After a moment, she trembles as she tries to get up. But the newly bloomed flower has experienced a night of storms. How can she still stand? Ah! With a painful groan, Fang Huang's legs give way, and she falls directly into Jishu's embrace. The scent of jasmine fills the air. Jishu slowly wakes up. At the same time, a crisp system prompt sounds in his mind. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining the true Phoenix essence. Your cultivation has advanced to the Monarch rank 6th realm. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining the true Phoenix essence. Your cultivation has advanced to the Monarch rank 7th realm. Listening to the system prompts in his ears, Jishu opens his eyes. At this moment, his gaze meets Fang Huang's, and they can even hear each other's breaths. What do you want again? Jishu looks at Fang Huang seriously and asks. You scoundrel. Upon hearing this, Fang Huang glares fiercely at Jishu, a blush rising on her cheeks and climbing up to her ears. Some people may seem like a high and mighty princess, the future empress of the empire. But in reality, Jishu smiles lightly but doesn't finish his words. Shut up. Fang Huang places a jade finger on Jishu's lips, her current state filled with both shame and anger, glaring at Jishu. As if she's ready to fight him if he dares to say anything. Fine, if you don't want to say it, then don't. Jishu shakes his head indifferently, then lazily rests his head on his hands, his gaze quietly fixed on the clear sky. It has to be said that what happened last night was indeed beyond his expectations. Of course, he has to admit that it was indeed a wonderful experience. In addition, he personally confirmed that Fang Huang now possesses both the bloodline of the heavenly phoenix and the true phoenix essence. So, after that passionate and crazy night, the immortal devouring demonic technique was able to absorb a considerable amount of true phoenix essence, and his cultivation was able to complete a double breakthrough. Phew! When Fang Huang sees Jishu shutting up, she takes a deep breath, endures the pain, slowly gets up, and takes out a set of Phoenix Palace robes from her storage ring, covering herself with it. Then, without looking back, she speaks. Jishu. Let's treat what happened last night as a dream. Forget about it. Both you and me. Jishu, hearing this, looks at the figure in front of him, who has regained her noble and cold appearance, with a playful look. Then, he shrugs and casually puts on a black robe, saying, "It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want, you." Upon hearing this, Fang Huang suddenly feels an inexplicable anger surging up, and she turns around to glare at Jishu, scolding. Jishu, what's your attitude? Jishu looks at Fang Huang with a puzzled expression. He thinks, didn't he just say what Fang Huang wanted him to say? Now, why is this woman angry again? You, daughter, such a scoundrel. Fang Huang angrily curses, her clenched jade fist trembling inexplicably. Just then, a figure appears. Cough, cough, cough. You too. Daughter, you going to fight again? Ning Xian calmly looks at the confrontational Jishu and Fang Huang and asks. Last night, she truly had her eyes opened. So much so that she had to stay away from Jishu and Fang Huang to calm the slightly restless blood in her body. And now, seeing Jishu and Fang Huang with the air of drawing their swords to face each other, she jokingly speaks to ease the icy atmosphere between them. It's over. Let's leave Zhou Yuan. Jishu casually responds. It's over. Fang Huang's voice is cold. A woman who's inexplicable. Jishu looks at the icy Fang Huang and shakes his head. Then he turned around and looked at the clear sky in Zhou Yuan, with a sharp gleam in his eyes. Clang. Jishu raised his hand and made a sudden slash towards the vast sky. Boom! A sound of earth-shattering explosion echoed in their ears. A ray of frozen dawn, as if cutting through the boundary between yin and yang, appeared in the sky, leaving a black crack. The sky in Zhou Yuan seemed like a curtain, cut open by a black crack. Threads of ethereal divine light fell like a sudden rain from the black crack onto Jishu and the other two. It's just as I expected. Enter Zhou Yuan. Only by comprehending the two-splitting sword technique can we leave. Zhou Dufu has truly put a lot of thought into this. Jishu spoke softly. HMPH. No need for you to say. I already know. Fang Huang snorted lightly. So this is how you all get along now. At night, it's one way, and during the day, it's another. Ning Xian teased with a playful tone. As soon as she finished speaking, a teleportation array appeared under the feet of Jishu, Fang Huang, and Ning Xian. Clang, clang, clang. The teleportation array emitted a divine light, and then the three of them disappeared within Zhouyuan. At this moment, Zhouyuan once again fell into darkness, even the wind stopped, returning to the silent dark world. The scene shifted. Jishu and the other two found themselves back in the imperial palace. Your Highness, you've finally returned. Wei Lao let out a sigh of relief. When he saw Jishu, he finally let go of the worry that had been hanging over him. Yes, where were you transported to for the past 10 hours? Mu Xuanian also looked at Jishu with surprise. 10 hours. Jishu heard the key point in the question. If he remembered correctly, they had been in Zhou Dufu's Zhouyuan for at least 10 days. If only 10 hours have passed outside, but 10 days have passed inside Zhouyuan. Then there is only one explanation. The time in Zhouyuan is much slower than the outside world. Jishu couldn't help but feel a little regretful. He thought to himself, if he could have his own Zhouyuan, that would be perfect. Stop thinking about it. The small world of Zhouyuan can only be created by the powerful great emperors. You are far from that. Fang Huang immediately saw through Jishu's thoughts and mocked him mercilessly. What, if this prince has such a world in the future? Do you plan to come again? Jishu looked at Fang Huang with a playful expression. Upon hearing this, Fang Huang was stunned for 3 seconds before realizing the meaning behind Jishu's words. Her face turned red, and she avoided Jishu's gaze as she softly said, "Dream on." Mu Xuanian found Fang Huang's behavior a bit strange. Before, Fang Huang had a deep hatred for Jishu. But now, Fang Huang's attitude towards Jishu seemed to have made a 180-degree turn. Although on the surface, Fang Huang still showed a lot of hostility towards Jishu. But Mu Xuanian could sense a subtle difference between the two. She even observed that Fang Huang couldn't meet Jishu's eyes at the moment. As if Fang Huang had done something wrong. Her woman's intuition told her that something must have happened between Jishu and Fang Huang. Your Highness Jishu, when you create a small world in the future, all come, miss and sister you will come too. Shui Guniang said with a cute smile to Jishu. Ahem. Jishu felt a bit embarrassed when he heard this. If they all came, he wouldn't be able to handle it. You fool. Fang Huang saw the change in Jishu's expression and couldn't help but mutter under her breath. Let's go. Leave this place. We've got what we came for. It's time to return to the capital. Jishu ignored Fang Huang and spoke with a smile on his face. Upon hearing these words, Wei Lao, Mu Xuanian, and Shui Guniang all had a momentary pause. Jishu meant that they had obtained the two-splitting sword technique. For a moment, they all felt excited. This trip to Zhouyuan was truly fruitful. Of course, what they didn't know was that not only did they obtain the two-splitting sword technique, but Jishu seemed to have obtained some other things as well. However, as Jishu and his group left Zhouyuan and walked through the endless snowfield, everyone's mood was completely relaxed. At this moment, Mu Xuanian looked at Fang Huang, who had been silent all the way, and became mischievous. Jishu, have you learned the two broken sword techniques? Mu Xuanian smiled and asked. I have learned. What's wrong? Jishu glanced at Mu Xuanian and nodded, not hiding anything. Then teach me. After all, we have been friends for 10 years. Mu Xuanian said, hugging Jishu's arm. Feeling the softness of his arm, Jishu couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Mu Xuanian had changed so much in these 10 years, from a once noble princess to a playful witch. Facing this Mu Xuanian, he couldn't help but feel a headache. Prince Jishu, now that you have learned the two broken sword techniques, can you also teach my lady when we return to the capital? Shui Guniang hesitated for a moment and spoke up. However, unlike Mu Xuanian, she only dared to reach out and grab Jishu's clothes. Looking at Shui Guniang's eager face, Jishu couldn't help but find it amusing. Mu Xuanian, on the other hand, asked with a playful smile. I have known Jishu for 10 years. But Miss Shui, why do you think you can ask Jishu to teach your lady? Shui Guniang thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up as she spoke. Although my lady has not known Prince Jishu for long. But, he and my lady have already. She didn't finish her sentence. She seemed to realize that what she was about to say was inappropriate, so she promptly closed her mouth. Jishu couldn't help but rub his forehead helplessly, thinking that this girl was really simple-minded. What have they already done? Mu Xuanyan's eyes flickered with a hint of light as she looked at Shui Guniang and asked. It's none of your business. Shui Guniang glared at Mu Xuanyan, but she held onto Jishu's clothes even tighter. It's none of your business. You don't need to say anything. After all, I have already guessed it. Mu Xuanyan's lips curled up, looking as if she knew everything in the world. Just then, a cold snort came from behind. Hey! Mu Xuanyan turned around with an interesting expression and looked at Fang Huang. What's wrong, Princess Chong, do you have any objections? She tightened her grip on Jishu's arm, causing his arm to sink deeper. Impressive, the shameless witch of the supreme heaven. Do you have no shame? Fang Huang sneered, her beautiful eyes coldly staring at Mu Xuanyan, who was so intimate with Jishu. And then, Mu Xuanyan seemed indifferent. Hey! Just because you have known Jishu for 10 years. Even if you have known each other for 100 years. It doesn't mean he will teach you the 2 broken sword techniques. But if you beg me, maybe, I can consider teaching you the 2 broken sword techniques. Fang Huang raised her chin slightly, her enchanting and exquisite face full of provocation. No need, you're just a captive, and you want the holy maiden to beg you. Ha ha ha, truly ridiculous. Mu Xuanyan smiled and spoke. Who do you think is the captive? Fang Huang glared at Mu Xuanyan, her jade hand clenched into a fist, anger surging in her heart. I may have lost in Zhou Ling before, but, in Zhou Yuan, HMPH. Fang Huang scolded, but she didn't continue speaking. She could only snort in frustration. And at this moment, a seductive voice echoed in her mind. Fang Huang, why don't you speak up? Say it out loud and smash this woman's face. Who's talking? Fang Huang frowned, her heart suddenly startled. But the voice had disappeared, nowhere to be found. So that's how it is. It seems that Princess Chong truly loved him. Mu Xuanyan said with a smile. Get lost. Fang Huang scolded, then ignored Mu Xuanyan. She felt a little confused for a moment. She had clearly heard a woman's voice just now. Was it an illusion? Women. Jishu shook his head and quickened his pace. Soon, they returned to the divine wood forest. There, they saw a beautiful woman with a perfect figure wearing a tight black dress standing under the divine tree. Sister Yuzhu. Mu Xuanyan saw the woman and couldn't help but feel delighted, rushing forward to hug her. Supreme Heaven, Luo Yuzhu. Fang Huang furrowed her brows slightly. She knew that the woman in front of her was a great figure in the Supreme Heaven, and she was also the right-hand woman of the Holy Queen, Nan Lingyu. 10 years have passed. She hasn't changed at all. Jishu looked at Luo Yuzhu and whispered softly. Your Highness, it's been a long time. Luo Yuzhu smiled slightly at Jishu. Did she ask you to come? Why, does she want the Crown Prince to go to the Supreme Heaven to see her? Jishu asked calmly. No, Your Highness, there's no need for you to go to the Supreme Heaven. Luo Yuzhu shook her head. What does she mean then? Jishu frowned. The Empress has gone to the capital. She will wait for you in the capital. Luo Yuzhu responded softly. What? Jishu's expression froze upon hearing this. Nan Lingyu went to the capital. What does she want to do? It seems, Your Highness, you don't know yet. Ji Yujian's supreme bone has been pulled out. Ji Yu Yao is seriously injured. There's a major change in the capital. Luo Yuzhu's red lips parted. As soon as she finished speaking, Wei Lao's face instantly turned extremely ugly. And looking at Jishu, there was no emotion on his face, no words. But his eyes were like a beast, exuding an extremely cold aura. Even, to Fang Huang, Shui Guniang, and Ning Xuan. They all felt a chill rising from the soles of their feet to their foreheads. Ji Yujian's supreme bone has been pulled out. Ji Yu Yao is seriously injured, his life or death is unknown. There's a major change in the capital. Luo Yuzhu's words lingered in Jishu's ears for a long time. Who? Jishu took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the terrifying killing intent in his heart, then spoke. Let's go. Back to the capital. Somebody is looking for death. After speaking, he headed straight out of the divine wood forest. Mu Xuanian also wanted to follow, but she was stopped by Luo Yuzhu. Sister Yuzhu, there's such a big incident in the capital. Why didn't you let me go? Upon hearing this, Luo Yuzhu shook her head and spoke. Once Jishu returns to the capital, with his temperament, everything will be turned upside down. The Empress has already gone. You don't need to cause trouble by following. Mu Xuanian sighed deeply upon hearing this. Looking at Jishu's figure, her beautiful eyes were filled with worry. Leaving the divine wood forest and walking out of the heavenly demon mountain. Jishu remained silent, but his gaze became even colder. At this moment, Fang Huang suddenly reached out and grabbed Jishu's wrist. Jishu, you're leaving. What about me? Fang Huang stared at Jishu with a dazed expression. Go wherever you want. It has nothing to do with me. Jishu coldly shook off Fang Huang's hand. Aren't I your captive? You're just letting me go like this. Fang Huang gritted her teeth and asked. Get lost. Jishu turned his head and glanced at Fang Huang, replying with 2 words, then he and Wei Lao and Shui Guniang boarded the black boat. Ning Xuan looked at Fang Huang, who was standing still, lost in thought. She couldn't help but reach out and gently rub Fang Huang's golden hair, then followed Jishu's footsteps. Clang! The black boat took off, tearing through the sky, and headed towards the direction of the northern Sha capital. Watching the black boat disappear into the sky, Fang Huang stood still for a long time. And at this moment, that enchanting and seductive voice resurfaced in her mind. Fang Huang, you clearly want to go to the capital with him, why don't you go? I don't. Fang Huang argued in her mind against the voice that appeared. Could it be? Mu Xuanian was right. After that night in Zhouyuan, did you develop complicated feelings for Jishu? Shut up. Fang Huang clenched her silver teeth, wanting the voice in her mind to stop. At least, that night. You were truly moved, right? Who are you? Fang Huang roared in her mind. Who am I? He. Don't you really know? Silly girl. I am you. The other, you. Kyoto, the palace of the eternal. Chu Li stood outside the palace with her hands behind her back. The cold moonlight bathed her, creating a dreamlike scene. At this moment, her face was filled with seriousness, and there was a lingering haze between her eyebrows. Rustle, rustle, rustle. A hurried footsteps came from outside the palace. Yu Guniang arrived at the palace of the Eternal and stood beside Chu Li, her expression equally serious. What's the situation? Chu Li asked in a low voice. Reporting to Miss. The Crown Prince of Great Qin, Ying Ce, has won the strategy. The Prince of Divine Phoenix Empire, Feng Mian. They have both entered the palace. Yu Guniang replied softly. What is their purpose? Have you found out? Chu Li frowned and looked at Yu Guniang. Not yet. But, the 4 divine punishment elders of the Great Qin Empire left the dynasty a day ago and their whereabouts are unknown. The 3rd of the top 10 experts of the Divine Phoenix Empire also left the dynasty a day ago and his whereabouts are also unknown. Yu Guniang responded with seriousness. 2 great dynasties. 7 saint rank experts. They all left their respective dynasties a day ago and their whereabouts are unknown at the same time. Ha ha ha, do we even need to guess? They have probably already arrived in the capital of Northern Sha. Chu Li sneered. Hiss. Upon hearing this, Yu Guniang couldn't help but take a cold breath and her expression changed dramatically as she exclaimed, Miss. Are you saying, they came to the capital to help Long Yuan? Long Yuan is going to make a move against the Ji family. Chu Li nodded and said, Long Yuan. I don't know what promises he made to the 2 great emperor countries. To be able to mobilize 7 saint rank experts from both countries. It seems, I have underestimated him, Miss. What should we do now? Yu Guniang looked at Chu Li and asked. Upon hearing this, Chu Li thought for a moment and then asked, what about Jishu? Has he returned? Yu Guniang nodded in response. Snow just sent a message saying that Jishu will be able to return to the capital tonight at the latest. Good. Chu Li breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing this. Now she and Jishu were allies. And she had placed a heavy bet on Jishu, even giving him the net to use as he pleased. So, she didn't want to see Jishu fall. She also believed that Jishu would not fall, and would not allow Jishu to fall. Continue investigating. See what Long Yuan, Ying Ce, and Feng Mian are up to in the palace. Yes, Yu Guniang heard this and turned to leave. Northern Sha Palace, the Imperial Dragon Hall. Long Yuan sat on the throne, smiling as he looked at the two young adults standing in the hall. Ying Ce, the crown prince of Great Qin, was dressed in a luxurious black brocade robe, with black hair reaching his temples, and a handsome appearance. He stood in the Imperial Dragon Hall with his hands behind his back, his expression indifferent, his eyes filled with inherent nobility and ruthlessness. Even when facing the Northern Sha Emperor Long Yuan, there was no trace of respect in his eyes. Feng Mian, the prince of Divine Phoenix Empire, wore a golden robe, unlike the cold Ying Ce. There was always a gentle smile on his face, making people easily develop a good impression of him. The people of the Divine Phoenix Empire called him the sun, because wherever he was, there was always bright sunshine. If it weren't for the Crown Princess Fang Huang, he would probably be the next Divine Phoenix Emperor. Welcome to Northern Sha, the two divine sons. Long Yuan smiled and spoke to Ying Ce and Feng Mian. Long Yuan, enough with the nonsense. I, the Crown Prince, have come all the way from Great Qin to your Northern Sha capital, not to listen to your polite words. So, show your sincerity sooner. Ying Ce responded coldly. The Crown Prince is right. I should show my sincerity. Please note that this translation is a literal translation and may not capture the full nuances and idiomatic expressions of the original Chinese text. But what about your sincerity? Long Yuan continued to smile, but refused to back down. Ha! Ying Ce sneered and took out a token from his storage ring. This token was made of precious obsidian. On the token, a large character, Fa, punishment, was particularly prominent. Take it. Ying Ce threw the token directly to Long Yuan and said indifferently, is it enough for the four elders of the Great Qin's divine punishment? Enough. It's enough. Long Yuan took the heavy token and couldn't hide his joy. In the past 10 years, he had sought help from the National Protector sect more than 100 times. But the National Protector sect only cared about the whereabouts of the world-purifying demon flame, and had no interest in Ji family's Jishu. So he could only plan to make deals with the important figures of the Great Qin Empire and the Divine Phoenix Empire. What about what I want? Ying Ce asked coldly. Hey! Upon hearing this, Long Yuan chuckled lightly and took out a crystal-clear fruit emitting a fragrant aroma from his storage ring. Your Highness, this is the longevity fruit I promised you. After saying that, Long Yuan reluctantly threw the longevity fruit to Ying Ling. One longevity fruit could heal all kinds of injuries in the world, enhance cultivation, and even extend lifespan by 500 years. In the Northern Sha dynasty, there were only 4 longevity fruits in 1,000 years, 2 in his possession and 2 in the possession of the National Protector sect. This time, he made up his mind and was willing to pay a great price to eliminate Jishu with the help of the Great Qin Empire and the Divine Phoenix Empire. Not bad. It is indeed a longevity fruit. Emperor Long Yuan, thank you very much. Ying Ce nodded at Long Yuan. This time, he didn't directly call his name, showing a little respect for Long Yuan. What about you, Prince Feng Mian? Long Yuan turned his gaze to Prince Feng Mian of the Divine Phoenix Empire. My abilities are limited. At most, I can assign 3 saint-rank experts to you. But, these 3 are among the top 10 experts of my Divine Phoenix Empire. Do you think it's feasible? Feng Mian smiled gently at Long Yuan. After a moment of silence, Long Yuan nodded. It's possible. After saying that, he took out his last longevity fruit and threw it to Feng Mian. Feng Mian also took out a token engraved with the phoenix flame and threw it to Long Yuan. Feeling the weight of the 2 tokens in his hand, Long Yuan felt more excited than ever before. Under the pressure of Jishu for 10 years, he was already on the verge of collapse. Now, he felt it was time to take back everything that belonged to him, his dynasty, his kingdom. Seeing the overflowing joy in Long Yuan's eyes, a trace of disdain flashed in Ying Ce's eyes. He thought to himself, what kind of incompetent emperor would let a prince step on him for 10 years? Just then, Fang Mian turned around to face Ying Xi and said, Prince, since our transaction with Emperor Long Yuan is complete, let's talk about the transaction between you and me. Sure. Ying Xi slowly turned around to face Fang Mian. I heard that you have a man with a supreme bone, is that right? Fang Mian looked directly at Ying Xi and asked. There is indeed one. And, this man is also Jishu's right-hand man in the Ji family. Ying Xi's mouth curved into a playful smile. Supreme bone. I want it, Fang Mian said straightforwardly. All right, I can give you the supreme bone. But what about what I want? Ying Xi responded calmly. What you want? The emperor has already made a decree and drafted a scroll. But, I want the supreme bone now. Fang Mian took a step forward, excitement burning in his eyes. So be it. Ying Xi nodded and clapped his hands twice. Bang! The doors of the Imperial Dragon Hall opened. A stern-faced old man in black clothes slowly walked into the hall, dragging a man covered in blood. Wherever he passed, blood stained the ground, filling the entire Imperial Dragon Hall with a thick, bloody smell. And this man covered in blood was the sword belonging to Jishu. Ji Jian. In the Imperial Dragon Hall, Ji Jian lay weakly in the center of the hall. His body was covered in blood, and his limbs were bent at abnormal angles. Clearly, both his hands and feet were broken, and even his hand and leg bones were fractured. Sister, Crown Prince, Master. Ji Jian's lifeless eyes gazed at the ceiling as he murmured the names of the three most important people in his life. Now, only when he thought of these three people did he find the courage to persevere. No matter what dark future awaited him ahead, he always thought that as long as he held on, as long as he saw his sister, the Crown Prince, and his master who treated him like a son. It was with this belief that he managed to survive. He is the man with the supreme bone. Fang Mian furrowed his brows and asked. Yes. Ying Xi's lips curled into a faint smile. What I want is the supreme bone. Not a dying man. Didn't you dig out the supreme bone according to the rumors? Now, what does this mean? Fang Mian's tone was somewhat displeased. Hehehehe. Ying Xi sneered and spoke. Prince Fang Mian. You said it was just a rumor. Moreover, this prince is not as crazy as the rumors say. The supreme bone was not dug out by this prince. But if you want it, you can do it yourself. With that, Ying Xi crossed his arms and took 2 steps back, looking like he was enjoying the show. And Long Yuan, sitting on the throne, also had a faint cold smile on his lips. As long as it was someone related to Jishu, being hurt, being tortured, he was happy to see it. HMPH. Fang Mian glanced at Ying Xi with a cold snort, then walked slowly to Ji Jian's side, looking down at the dying Ji Jian and said. Crown Prince, if you deceive this prince, then, the deal between you and me, the Great Qin Empire and my Divine Phoenix Empire, will be cancelled. All right. Ying Xi heard this and shrugged his shoulders, completely unconcerned. Clang. Fang Mian took out a silver knife from his storage ring and looked at Ji Jian with a cold gaze. Then, he held the silver knife and directly cut open Ji Jian's chest. Poochie. The sound of splattering blood echoed through the hall. The thick blood flowed out of Ji Jian's chest like a stream. Ah! Ji Jian groaned, and beads of sweat the size of soybeans rolled down his forehead. But even so, he didn't scream in pain. He gritted his teeth and endured the agony. In his subconscious, he could endure torture, but he couldn't let down his crown prince. Not bad. It's quite a man. This prince is indeed curious about this guy Jishu. What kind of man can cultivate such a person? Ying Xi sneered, but Fang Mian didn't pay any attention to Ying Xi. Because his gaze had been attracted by the bone in Ji Jian's chest, which was shining with a faint brilliance, as if it contained the secrets of the heavens. It really is the supreme bone. Fang Mian looked at the bone, which was filled with countless runes and radiated a greedy and fiery light. Indeed. Then let's get started, Ying Xi urged. Hey. Fang Mian chuckled lightly, and once again swung the silver knife in his hand. This time, he directly dug out the bone from Ji Jian's chest. Crown Prince, I feel cold. Ji Jian's eyes were blurred as he murmured. At this moment, he only felt a trace of coldness welling up from the depths of his soul. His eyelids were heavy, and he was about to fall asleep at any moment. Clang. The bone came out. In an instant, the entire imperial dragon hall was filled with a sacred radiance. Thank you, Crown Prince. This supreme bone, this prince will accept it. After saying that, Fang Mian placed the supreme bone into a special container filled with ethereal immortal energy that he had created at a great cost. The supreme bone could only maintain its brilliance and immortal power in such a container. I have given you what you wanted. What about what I want? Ying Ce asked calmly. Here you go. Fang Mian took out a scroll from his storage ring and threw it directly to Ying Ce. Ying Ce caught the scroll. He opened it and scanned it with his eyes, then a faint smile appeared on his lips as he reached out his hand towards Fang Mian. Happy cooperation. Hee. Fang Mian also smiled and shook Ying Ce's hand, speaking with a meaningful tone. Happy cooperation. Future brother-in-law. What he wanted was the supreme bone. What Ying Ce wanted was a marriage contract, or rather, a woman. A woman with a powerful bloodline, unparalleled talent, and a noble background. And this woman was the Divine Phoenix Empire's princess consort, Fang Huang. Your Highness, the prince. This prince is curious. Fang Huang possesses the bloodline of the Divine Phoenix. At the legendary level, she will become the future empress of the Divine Phoenix Empire. So, why did the Lord of the Divine Phoenix agree to this marriage? Ying Ce asked curiously. It's simple. If my sister becomes the empress, it might be a good thing. But if I obtain the supreme bone, then in the future when I ascend to the position of Lord of the Divine Phoenix, there's nothing less I can do than her. And, if she marries you, the Divine Phoenix Empire can form an alliance with the Great Qin Empire. Then, the Divine Phoenix Empire will reach new heights, even gaining a place in the 9 heavens. This is a win-win situation. How could our father not agree? Fang Mian responded with a smile. I see. Ying Ce nodded. In fact, he had already guessed this. But he just wanted to confirm it one last time. All right, Your Highness, the Crown Prince. It's time for you to leave. After my sister returns home, you can marry her. Fang Mian waved his hand. What about you? Don't you want to return to the Divine Phoenix Empire with me? Ying Ce looked at Fang Mian and asked. No, this prince has heard that Jishu Jian has a sister, named Jishu Yao. Perhaps, she also has some secrets. Fang Mian smiled and responded, his eyes flickering with greed. Indeed, it's you. Ying Ce nodded, then turned and left the Dragon Palace. At this moment, only Fang Mian, Long Yuan, and the barely conscious Jishu Jian remained in the Dragon Palace. Your Highness, the Prince. Jishu Jian, what do you plan to do? Long Yuan propped his head up with his left hand and asked with interest. Fang Mian pondered for a moment and responded. He only has 3 days left to live. So, naturally, we should send him home. After all, he is this prince's benefactor. Speaking of this, Fang Mian couldn't help but laugh. And Long Yuan couldn't help but curl his lips at Fang Mian's words. Fang Mian was clearly provoking Jishu, yet he still spoke so self-righteously. But he didn't expose this matter, because he also wanted to do the same. After all, he had to have a reason to make Jishu angry, provoke the Ji family's rebellion, and finally annihilate them. Only then could the Northern Xia dynasty's public opinion be settled. Thinking of this, Long Yuan slowly stood up and walked to the center of the Dragon Palace. With a cold gaze, he looked at Jishu Jian lying on the ground and spoke. Jishu Jian, your fate today will be the fate that Jishu is about to face. I will make sure you witness all of it. Upon hearing this, Jishu Jian's throat moved, and then weakly uttered 4 words. Go, yourself. Upon hearing these words, Fang Mian shook his head and laughed. Long Yuan's face turned extremely pale and ugly. He turned his head and shouted angrily outside the hall. Guards, take this wild dog and throw him back to the Ji family. As the words fell, a faint smile appeared on Jishu Jian's weak face. He murmured as if in a dream. Finally, I can go home. It was night. A mysterious boat cut through the sky and arrived in Kyoto. As soon as Jishu entered Kyoto, he felt as if the entire city was shrouded in layers of gloom. When he arrived at the Ji family military mansion and looked at the desolate mansion, a very bad premonition welled up in his heart. The Crown Prince has returned. Quick, inform the madam. Your Highness, you've finally returned. There have been major incidents in the family during your absence. Miss Ji Yu Yao is injured. She's seriously injured. Dot 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 dot. Voices echoed in Jishu's ears. But Jishu didn't hesitate at all and walked straight towards the fallen Maple Palace. As soon as he entered the fallen Maple Palace, his mother Lin Ru and grandmother Mu Hua greeted him. Shower, you've finally come home. Lin Ru's tired face spoke softly. Go and see Yaoer, she's seriously injured. Mu Hua patted Jishu's shoulder. Upon hearing this, Jishu felt his mind buzz and his breath became somewhat chaotic. And Ning Xiu, who had been following Jishu all along, saw Jishu's disordered breath and couldn't help but call out softly, Jishu. I'm fine. Jishu shook his head and walked into the fallen Maple Palace. On the palace bed lay a beautiful woman, her life force extremely weak, her pretty face devoid of any color, and her whole person extremely haggard. Yaoer. Jishu sat on the edge of the bed and gently touched Ji Yu Yao's cold cheek, calling out softly. Ji Yu Yao, exhausted, opened her eyes. When she saw the person in front of her, her dim eyes lit up for a moment, and the corners of her mouth struggled to form a shallow arc. Crown Prince, you're back. Her weak voice made Jishu's heart tremble. Yeah, I'm back. Jishu nodded heavily. Your Highness. Yaoer is very tired. Hug me, okay? Ji Yu Yao asked softly. As soon as she finished speaking, Jishu reached out and hugged Ji Yu Yao, trying to keep his tone calm. Yaoer, how did you get injured like this? Well, Ji Yu Yao made a soft sound, then leaned her head against Jishu's chest and spoke softly. Ji Yu Jian, he's in their hands. I have to save him. He's my younger brother. Ah. Perhaps because her emotions fluctuated for a moment, a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her mouth, a pitiful sight that made people's hearts ache. Understood, Yaoer, you're seriously injured. I'll save you first. Let's talk about other things later. Jishu reached out and wiped away the bloodstains from Ji Yu Yao's mouth. Ji Yu Yao was seriously injured, with dozens of sword wounds all over her body. There were even several fatal wounds. However, it seemed that someone had protected her heart pulse with a powerful force, allowing her to survive. Otherwise, Ji Yu Yao would definitely not have made it this far. Jishu took a deep breath and opened the system store. He spent 3,000 Essence of Destiny to buy 7 or 8 kinds of holy medicine, and then used them all on Ji Yu Yao. Soon, Ji Yu Yao's injuries stabilized a lot, at least there was no danger to her life. But, when Jishu looked at the deep, unhealable sword wounds on Ji Yu Yao's body, a raging anger that couldn't be suppressed surged in his heart. Yaoer, tell me, who hurt you? Jishu gently held Ji Yu Yao and asked in a low voice. Prince of Great Qin, Ying Ce, he's very powerful. Yaoer is no match for him. If it weren't for that person, Yaoer might not have seen you, Your Highness. Ji Yu Yao tightly hugged Jishu, her eyes reddened. That person, is it her? Jishu frowned. If he guessed correctly, the person who saved Ji Yu Yao should be Nan Lingyu. It seems, I owe her again. Jishu shook his head, murmuring to himself with complex emotions. Your Highness, can you save my younger brother? Yaoer knows, it's difficult. But, please save him. If he falls into their hands, he will die. Ji Yu Yao looked up, her beautiful eyes staring at Jishu, shimmering with tears. Whenever she thought of Ji Yu Jian covered in blood, the heart of this elder sister would ache as if it were being torn apart. Yaoer, don't worry. The person who hurt you. The person who hurt Ji Yu Jian. This crown prince won't let a single one of them go. Jishu's voice was neither light nor heavy, but one could hear the overwhelming killing intent in it. Prince of Great Qin, Prince of Divine Phoenix. So what? The person who hurt him must pay the price. It's the same for anyone. Ji Yu Yao made a soft sound of agreement, then buried her head in Jishu's arms, behaving like an injured kitten. In an instant, her mind relaxed and the heavy drowsiness washed over her. Only she knew that she hadn't slept peacefully since Jishu left the capital. In the face of life and death, the only person she thought of was Jishu. She thought, if she died, Jishu would be sad, and she didn't want to make Jishu sad. And at that moment, outside the Wuyang Palace, the voice of Old Wei could be heard. Your Highness, come out quickly. Ji Yu Jian. It's Ji Yu Jian. Upon hearing this, Jishu's expression froze, and Ji Yu Yao, enduring the intense pain in her body, also wanted to get up. Yaoer, lie down. I'll go and see, Jishu solemnly told her as he placed Ji Yu Yao on the bed. But, Ji Yu Yao bit her lip, feeling extremely uneasy. No buts. Listen to me. After Jishu finished speaking, he turned and walked out of the fallen maple palace. At this moment, a familiar figure lay outside the fallen maple palace. And in front of him stood two people. Ji Wuji, the deputy commander of the Iron Floating Pagoda Army. Xan, the commander of the Northern Xia Emperor's personal guards. Your Highness, on the orders of His Majesty the Emperor, my father and I have come to escort Ji Yu Jian home. Ji Wuji smiled and spoke to Jishu. Your Highness. To be honest, because Ji Yu Jian attempted to assassinate the great Qin Crown Prince, he ended up like this. But, the great Qin Crown Prince has always admired you, so he spared Ji Yu Jian's life out of goodwill. Xan also smiled and said. Upon hearing this, Old Wei's face turned extremely cold. Lin Ru and Mu Hua also had unpleasant expressions. But Jishu didn't even look at Ji Wuji and Xan. He walked straight to Ji Yu Jian's side, crouched down. At this moment, he saw that Ji Yu Jian's chest was wrapped in a piece of white gauze stained with blood. He reached out and uncovered the gauze. Jishu saw a bloody wound, blood flowing out. Ji Yu Jian's supreme bone was dug out. As this thought arose, Jishu felt as if all the strength in his body had been drained, and a coldness spread from the depths of his heart. At this moment, he could no longer suppress the killing intent in his heart. He slowly stood up. A thick gloom fell upon him. What are you saying? Jishu asked softly, his eyes half lowered. I'm saying, the great Qin Crown Prince has always admired you, so he spared Ji Yu Jian's life out of goodwill. His Majesty the Emperor hopes that your Highness will be grateful. Ji Wuji spoke again, looking at Jishu without a smile on his face. And as soon as he finished speaking, Jishu suddenly looked up. At this moment, his eyes were filled with bloodshot veins, like an abyssal demon. Seeing Jishu like this, Ji Wuji's face changed drastically. He subconsciously took 2 steps back, feeling a cold chill rising from the soles of his feet to his scalp. Clang! Jishu took a step forward and stood in front of him, pressing his hand firmly on his head. Xan saw his father being held by Jishu and panicked, unable to help but exclaim, Jishu, don't act impulsively. If His Majesty the Emperor finds out, He didn't finish his sentence. Jishu's mouth curled into a cold arc, and he squeezed Ji Wuji's head with the hand on top. Splat! Ji Wuji's head shattered like a watermelon in an instant. Blood splattered directly onto Xan's face. Ah! Xan let out a roar, the thick smell of blood filling his nose, and immediately shouted in anger, Jishu! How dare you! You killed my father! His Majesty the Emperor will surely exterminate your entire clan. His father was the deputy commander of the Iron Floating Pagoda Army, and he was also an old friend of Jishu's father. Moreover, Jishu's mother, Lin Ru, and grandmother, Mu Hua, were also present. He never expected that Jishu would dare to be so cruel, completely disregarding his father's status and the years of friendship between their families. Before he could finish his words, splat, a hand directly pierced through Xan's chest. When Jishu slowly withdrew his hand, there was a black hole on Xan's chest. Boom! Xan's body fell to the ground. And Jishu turned around and looked at his mother, Lin Ru, and Mu Hua without saying a word. Shower, have you thought about the path ahead? Lin Ru took a deep breath and asked softly. She was Jishu's mother. So, at this moment, Jishu didn't need to tell her with words, she already knew what Jishu was about to do. I have thought about it. Jishu nodded. Even if there's a raging flood. Mu Hua stared at Jishu in a daze. Even if it's a bottomless abyss. Jishu responded. Kyoto, the palace of the eternal emperor. Kill the saint child, soul-stealing saintess. Bribe the prince. Frame Xan. And even, it seems like he also stole Xan's fiancée. Jishu, oh Jishu. This trip has given me a new impression of you. Chu Li listened as Shui Guniang described Jishu's various misdeeds at Heavenly Demon Mountain in an exaggerated manner, and a smile grew in her eyes. Miss, Jishu is truly a super dangerous person. We have to be careful when cooperating with him in the future. Shui Guniang pulled on Chu Li's sleeve, her beautiful eyes shining as she reminded her. Since we've chosen to cooperate, then we have to trust unconditionally. Besides, Jishu is powerful and ruthless, isn't that a good thing? And I never expected that this guy could have the strength of a saint level despite only being at the lord level. It seems that the saying, under the saint level, all our ants has become empty words in front of him. Chu Li playfully poked Shui Guniang's forehead, her tone filled with surprise. That may be true, but that guy is too reckless. He never considers the consequences of his actions. He even did that kind of thing with you. And now he's unclear with the Divine Phoenix Princess and the Supreme Heaven Saintess, Mu Xuanian. Oh right, he seems to be the Supreme Heaven Saint King, and the Supreme Heaven Saint Queen might be his wife. Shui Guniang defended Jishu indignantly. You, what are you thinking about all day long? Even if the Supreme Heaven Saint Queen, Nan Lingyu, is his wife, so what? I don't care. Chu Li laughed and shook her head. Of course, although she seemed indifferent when she said that. In reality, only she knew that she was a little unhappy. Because Jishu was like a treasure she had discovered. But now this treasure is no longer exclusively hers, as it is unclear with several important figures. Of course, she felt uncomfortable about it. However, she managed to control her emotions well. After all, the more help Jishu had, the greater her chances of obtaining Snow Moon City in the future. As for the rest, she would take it step by step. Meanwhile, as her thoughts were turning, Lady Yu hurriedly returned to the palace of the Eternal Emperor. What happened? Chu Li asked Lady Yu. Miss, your guess was correct. Long Yuan wants to use the power of the two great emperor countries to destroy the Ji family. Now, the 7 saint-level powerhouses from Great Qin, Divine Phoenix, and the two great emperor countries have arrived in Kyoto. Lady Yu responded with a serious tone. What is the cost? What did Long Yuan pay? Chu Li frowned. The elixir of eternal life. Lady Yu took a deep breath and said. Upon hearing this, Chu Li fell silent for a moment, then nodded. I see. It seems that Long Yuan has gone all out this time. They even brought out the elixir of eternal life, the super-secret heritage of the Northern Xia imperial family. Miss, there's one more thing. Lady Yu suddenly interrupted. What is it? Chu Li looked at Lady Yu with a serious expression, feeling a sense of unease rising in her heart. Divine Phoenix Prince, Fang Mian, personally dug out the supreme bone of Ji Yujian in the Imperial Dragon Hall. And Long Yuan had Ji Wuji and Ji Zan send the barely alive Ji Yujian back to the Ji family. And then, Chu Li continued to ask. And then, Ji Wuji and Ji Zan died. And Jishu, the crown prince, did it himself. He even had someone send the bodies of Ji Wuji and his son back to Long Yuan. Lady Yu's voice was filled with astonishment. Ah! Chu Li sighed upon hearing this. Jishu made a move. This means there's no turning back on this matter. What do you mean? Lady Yu and Shui Guniang looked at Chu Li at the same time. It means, Jishu won't let anyone involved in this matter live. Chu Li said calmly. Miss, what should we do then? Lady Yu exclaimed in surprise. Yes, are we also going to go crazy with Jishu to the end? Shui Guniang bit her red lips, her beautiful eyes fixed on Chu Li. At this point, Chu Li said, what other choice do I have? He's going crazy. I can only accompany him to the end. Chu Li looked up at the bright moon in the night sky, her beautiful eyes gradually becoming hazy. And at that moment, an old man arrived outside the palace of the Eternal Yang. Empress, the Emperor invites you to the palace. He is waiting for you in the Imperial Dragon Hall. The old voice echoed within the palace of the Eternal Yang. A saint-level expert, Chu Li frowned slightly as she felt the vast and powerful aura. Miss, what should we do now? Does the Emperor know about your relationship with Jishu, the Crown Prince? Lady Yu asked nervously. I'm not sure. Chu Li shook her head. Then, after a moment of contemplation, she lightly opened her red lips and said. Yue, Shui, go find Jishu. From now on, all of you will follow Jishu's orders. After saying that, she turned and left the palace of the Eternal Yang, heading towards the Imperial Dragon Hall. Watching Chu Li's departing figure, Lady Yu bit her silver teeth and said. Something doesn't seem right. If Long Yuan finds out about Mrs. relationship with Jishu, he definitely won't show mercy. Ah, what are we waiting for? Shui Guniang exclaimed and said. Let's go. Lady Yu, we need to find Jishu quickly. Sigh. Lady Yu shook her head and said. Shui. They are 7 saint level experts. What can Jishu do, even if he is one of them? Unless the Supreme Heavenly Saint Empress personally intervenes. Tisk. Shui Guniang pouted and held Lady Yu's jade hand, puffing her chest and saying. So what if they are saint-level experts? Lady Yu, don't worry. Jishu, he can kill recklessly. Lady Yu. Ji Mansion, Fallen Maple Palace. With just one sentence, even if it's a bottomless abyss, Mu Hua and Lin Ru understood Jishu's intentions. Jishu not only wanted to overthrow the imperial power, but he also wanted to relentlessly deal with everyone involved in this matter. As Jishu's grandmother and mother, seeing their precious one having made a decision, they naturally chose to support him. Therefore, Mu Hua and Lin Ru directly handed over all their power to Jishu. And after leaving Fallen Maple Palace, they immediately contacted Jishao and Ji Nu. The 80,000 iron floating pagoda army at the border of northern Sha was ready and waiting. Old Wei, send orders to the 6th Bureau of Military Intelligence to cut off all communication between the capital and the outside world. Send orders to the 50,000 iron floating pagoda army stationed outside the capital to surround the city. Send orders to the 6 departments of the capital, the Imperial Academy, the Dragon Guard Villa, the Great Li Temple, the Inspection Court, the Prison Administration Bureau. The Crown Prince wants to take control of the capital within an hour. Finally, contact all the people in the mortal world and have them cooperate with the 6th Bureau of Military Intelligence to eliminate all the people who have secretly pledged allegiance to Long Yuan within the entire northern Sha. Jishu gave clear instructions one after another. Yes, Old Wei nodded heavily, then took a final look at Ji Yujian before turning and leaving. After Old Wei left, outside Fallen Maple Palace, only Jishu and Ning Xian remained. He doesn't seem to have much time left. Ning Xian looked at Ji Yujian, who was lying on the ground covered in blood, in a pitiful state, and shook her head. The elixir of eternal life can save him. Jishu calmly said. When do you plan to enter the palace? Ning Xian asked softly. After seeing her. Then I will enter the palace. After Jishu finished speaking, he turned and walked towards the observation deck of Ji Mansion. There stood an enchanting and peerless figure. The cold moonlight spills over the observation deck. Here, one can overlook the bustling city of Kyoto by simply lowering their head. Here, reaching out feels like plucking the bright moon from the sky. Here, stands an extraordinary woman, standing with her hands behind her back. With just her back view, she has captivated the world. Arriving at the observation deck, Jishu looked at her back, feeling unusually complex. Jishu took a deep breath before speaking. 10 years. Long time no see. Nan Lingyu. Upon hearing this, Nan Lingyu slowly turned around to look at Jishu. She didn't speak, but silently observed Jishu for a while. Then, her red lips curved into a shallow smile as she softly said. Jishu, you've grown up. And you've grown well. I am pleased. You. Jishu looked at the stunning woman in front of him, unable to find the right words. At this moment, he suddenly remembered that Nan Lingyu had always been such an enigmatic woman. Her words and actions were always puzzling. Even now, he didn't know what Nan Lingyu was planning. You're confused. Nan Lingyu seemed to see through Jishu's thoughts. Yes, Jishu nodded. Are you confused about what I said to you 10 years ago? Or are you confused about why I made you the Supreme Lord of the Heavenly Realm? Or perhaps, why I saved your maid? Nan Lingyu smiled and spoke, her beautiful eyes filled with an unreadable light. All of the above. Jishu shook his head, his gaze fixed on Nan Lingyu. Hee. Nan Lingyu chuckled, the smile on her stunning face becoming even more pronounced. Jishu, you really are a fool. I told you about all this 10 years ago. You, Jishu, belong to me. And everything I've done for you, you will have to pay a price. What price? Jishu frowned. At this moment, he felt a sense of unease similar to 10 years ago. He. Nan Lingyu laughed lightly, walked to Jishu's side with her hands behind her back, and gently tapped Jishu's chest with her jade-like hand before speaking. Youngster, don't be in a hurry. You will know in due time. Jishu took a deep breath and asked. What about now? Will you help me? Nan Lingyu raised an eyebrow playfully, looking at Jishu with interest. Haven't you already arranged everything? What else do you want me to do? National Protector Sect. Jishu stared at Nan Lingyu in astonishment as she uttered those 3 words. Now, he had many things to do and many people to kill. So, he needed someone to bear the pressure from the National Protector Sect. I can help you with National Protector Sect. But, it seems like you owe me even more now. Nan Lingyu smiled and spoke. After this is over, I, Nan Lingyu, will repay all your debts. No matter what you want, I will give it to you. Jishu made his promise. Good deal. Nan Lingyu agreed without any hesitation. Thank you. Jishu nodded slightly towards Nan Lingyu, then turned and left the observation deck. Tonight, his only destination was the Northern Sha Imperial Palace. After glancing at Jishu's departing figure, Nan Lingyu chuckled and turned to look at the bustling city of Kyoto. The moonlight on her stunning face appeared particularly enchanting. After a long time, she lifted her red lips and said with a playful tone. It's been 10 years. Does this little guy really not know, or is he pretending not to know? I, from beginning to end, only wanted one thing, and that's you. You are my priceless treasure. Now, you owe me more and more. Almost a lifetime's worth. Fool. Meanwhile, under Jishu's orders, the entire Northern Sha dynasty fell into chaos. Ji Nu and Ji Shao, who were stationed at the border, directly ordered the 800,000 iron floating pagoda army to take control of hundreds of cities in Northern Sha. The Nine Heavens Continent's #1 assassin organization, People's World, dispatched hundreds of assassins to carry out a massive purge within Northern Sha, targeting anyone or any force related to Long Yuan in the military intelligence agency. The most terrifying situation was in the capital city, Kyoto. The 50,000 iron floating pagoda army completely surrounded Kyoto. Inside Kyoto, the 6 departments of Kyoto, the Royal Academy of Kyoto, the Dragon Guard Villa, the Inspection Court, the Prison Bureau, all fell under the control of the military intelligence agency. Jishu, accompanied by Old Wei and the 2 girls, Shui Guniang and Yu Guniang, headed towards the imperial palace. It's worth mentioning that Ning Xian also followed Jishu. When Shui Guniang asked Ning Xian why she wanted to help Jishu, Ning Xian only replied with a sentence that left her puzzled. Jishu, his fate does not belong to himself. His fate is very important. Much more important than the 3 great empires combined. Northern Sha Palace, Imperial Dragon Hall. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. Long Yuan looked at the 2 corpses lying on the ground, his face extremely unsightly. Your Majesty, isn't this the result you wanted? Jishu rebelled. And then, you raised your hand to suppress. Feng Mian said indifferently, if Ji Wuji and Ji Zan can come back alive, I would be even happier. Long Yuan spoke coldly. As he said, if Ji Zan and Ji Wuji returned to the Imperial Dragon Hall alive, it would mean that Jishu had backed down and dared not oppose him. But if Jishu made such a ruthless move, does it mean that Jishu has the power to contend with him, which is why he dares to act so recklessly? There is no perfect solution in the world. Now all 7 saint ranks are in the palace tonight. I don't know what you are worried about, Prince Feng Mian. Feng Mian waved his hand. Prince Feng Mian makes sense. Chu Li spoke expressionlessly. He. Feng Mian chuckled lightly, looking at Chu Li with interest and said. Empress Chu Li is indeed as beautiful as the rumors say, and she is also understanding. Just a pity. Chu Li furrowed his brows slightly and asked, what does Prince want to say? Hey. Feng Mian turned around and looked at Chu Li, the smile in his eyes gradually becoming more intense as he sarcastically said. What Prince wants to say is, Empress Chu Li of Northern Sha, although she appears to be beautiful, she is an extremely lowly woman. How dare you? Chu Li glared at Feng Mian, a hint of killing intent flashed in her eyes. Tisk tisk tisk. Empress, don't be angry. After all, even His Majesty Long Yuan is not angry. Feng Mian clicked his tongue and then pointed to Long Yuan, who was sitting on the throne with a gloomy face. Empress, you speak. What happened between you and Jishu that night? Long Yuan gritted his teeth and looked at Chu Li, questioning her. HMPH. Chu Li snorted coldly and remained silent. She didn't need to explain to Long Yuan about her and Jishu. After all, Long Yuan was nothing in her eyes. Since Empress doesn't want to say, then let me say it. Feng Mian spread his hands, pondered for a moment, and then said, I am very familiar with Empress's brother. We are close friends. 3 days ago, Empress's brother sent a message to me, saying that her sister had established a force called Web. And even earlier, Empress actually handed over your efforts to Jishu. I guess, the relationship between Empress and Crown Prince Jishu must be more than simple. Chu Li heard this and bit her silver teeth, her jade hand clenched tightly. She didn't expect that her brother would find out about her establishment of the web. And it seemed that her brother had secretly planted spies in her web. Chu Li, I'll ask again, what did you do with Jishu? Long Yuan stood up angrily, glaring at Chu Li. All along, he had respected Chu Li to the extreme. Even as his empress, he had never touched a corner of Chu Li's clothes. He thought that there would be a chance to win Chu Li's heart in the future. But he never expected that Chu Li and Jishu would actually be together. Your Majesty, do you really want to know? Chu Li sneered, her beautiful face full of mockery. Speak, Long Yuan roared. Your Majesty, then listen carefully. I am already Jishu's woman, both in body and in heart. I belong to him. How about it? Do you understand? Chu Li's red lips slightly opened. As her words fell, Long Yuan suddenly took a step back, feeling a bit dizzy in his head. His face turned extremely pale. Chu Li's words were truly heart-wrenching. For a moment, he trembled with anger and pointed at Chu Li, cursing furiously. You wretch! Chu Li, you despicable woman! I won't spare you. As his words fell, bang, the palace door of the Imperial Dragon Hall opened. A tall figure slowly walked into the palace. Jishu. Long Yuan saw the person and gritted his teeth, spitting out the name that made him sleepless and hated to the bone. Dog Emperor. Today, you will die. Jishu looked at Long Yuan and Feng Mian indifferently as he spoke. Chapter 89. He. Long Yuan heard this and lowered his head, his face full of gloom as he shook his head and laughed. Jishu, do you really think highly of yourself? Do you think you're worthy of killing me? Let me tell you the truth. Tonight, you, your family, and that scoundrel Chu Li will all perish in this capital city. Is that so? Jishu responded with a mocking tone and expressionless face. Just because you exchanged the 7 saint-level experts from the Northern Xia imperial family. Long Yuan's smile froze on his face upon hearing this. At this moment, as he looked into Jishu's calm eyes, a sense of unease surged in his heart. Being suspicious by nature, he couldn't help but wonder if Jishu had some hidden cards that he didn't know about. At this moment, the Prince of the Divine Phoenix, Feng Mian, arrived and pointed at Jishu with a smirk on his face. Jishu, should I say you're foolish? Or ignorant? You dare to be so shameless even when facing death. Tisk tisk tisk. After tonight, the Northern Xia Ji family will cease to exist. Furthermore, with the 7 saint-level experts from 2 great emperor countries, even the Divine Ice Palace behind you won't be able to protect you. In his opinion, just 1 saint-level expert would be enough to crush Jishu and the Ji family. The reason why Long Yuan acquired 7 saint-level experts was to counterbalance the Divine Ice Palace behind Jishu. Upon hearing this, Jishu shifted his gaze to Feng Mian, without explaining anything, and simply asked in a calm tone. Prince Feng Mian, have you ever seen hell? What? Feng Mian frowned, and for some reason, a chill ran down his spine as he looked into Jishu's eyes. You dare to threaten this prince, you idiot. After saying that, Feng Mian coldly ordered the stern-looking old man standing beside Chu Li. Elder Ji Yu, send him on his way. Yes. Elder Ji Yu nodded and slowly approached Jishu, emitting an extremely majestic saint-level pressure from his body. 7th stage of the Lord Realm. Not bad talent. What a pity. After speaking, a cold and fierce light flashed in Elder Gu's eyes. He opened his withered palm and directly grabbed towards Jishu. This palm was plain and unadorned, but the space twisted wherever it passed, and its power far exceeded that of the Lord Realm, even surpassing the power of the initial stage of the Saint Realm. Oh, what a pity! Jishu sneered, and a chaotic light burst from his eyes. At the same time, the temperature in the air suddenly rose, activating the divine prohibition. Boom! Elder Gu's palm landed on Jishu's chest. Terrifying saint-level energy fluctuations spread out. But a shocking scene unfolded. Jishu stood still, as if he had taken Elder Gu's palm with his body. Elder Gu felt the power in his body gradually dissipating, and his pupils suddenly contracted. Fifth stage of the Saint Realm. Is this all you've got? A cold and cruel curve appeared at the corner of Jishu's mouth. He immediately grabbed Elder Gu's wrist, and terrifying demonic flames appeared in his eyes. Boom! The flames of the immortal devouring demonic technique erupted. In an instant, Elder Gu's body exploded under the power of the immortal devouring demonic technique. Elder Gu didn't even have a chance to scream, his entire being turned into a pile of ashes. Seeing this scene, everyone present was stunned. A saint-level expert, in an instant, was instantly killed by Jishu. Immortal devouring demonic technique. Long Yuan's eyes almost popped out. He never expected that the disappeared immortal devouring demonic technique would be in Jishu's hands. How is this possible? Fang Mian took 2 steps back, his face filled with fear as he looked at Jishu. Everything happened too fast for him to react. But now, he seemed to understand. The man in front of him seemed to truly not care about the Saint Realm. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a 5th stage saint-level expert. The immortal devouring demonic technique has successfully devoured his life force. Ding! Congratulations to the host for advancing in cultivation and reaching the peak of the 7th stage of the Lord Realm. Listening to the crisp sound of the system prompt in his ears, the corners of Jishu's mouth curled up with a cold arc. Now that his immortal devouring demonic technique has reached the 5th level, it can be said that a qualitative change has occurred. He can turn demonic cultivators into his puppets, killing cultivators, devouring their life essence, and rapidly improving his cultivation, and weakening the cultivation of enemies during battles. These are all the magical powers that come after reaching the 5th level of the immortal devouring demonic technique. So powerful. Chu Li stared at Jishu in astonishment and admiration. Although she had heard from Shui before that Jishu could fight against saint-level experts, she didn't expect that saint-level experts would be like toys in front of Jishu, completely helpless. Jishu, so, it was you who took the pure world demon flame. My Huguo sect will not let you go. Long Yuan gritted his teeth and angrily shouted. After speaking, he suddenly crushed the 2 tokens in his hand. Crack! The tokens shattered. Amidst the shimmering divine light, 6 terrifying shadows instantly descended upon Kyoto, as if the entire city had entered its darkest moment. The people of Kyoto, as well as millions of cultivators, stared in fear towards the direction of the imperial palace, swallowing their saliva and murmuring. Saint level, 6 saint level experts. Outside the Imperial Dragon Hall, 6 terrifying figures descended. The terrifying pressure of the saint level made the people and cultivators of Kyoto feel weak all over. In their eyes, the saint level was no different from gods. Kill these 6 saint level experts. What realm can this young master reach? Jishu turned around and calmly looked at the 6 saint level experts standing outside the Imperial Dragon Hall. This was the only thought in his mind. Elder Wei, Chu Li, you keep an eye on Long Yuan and Feng Mian. Jishu waved his hand and then walked out of the Imperial Dragon Hall. He wanted to leave the best prey for last. Anyone who dared to move against him would experience what hell truly meant. Understood. Chu Li nodded and stood together with the 2 girls, Shui Yu and Shui Yu. Elder Wei walked into the center of the Imperial Dragon Hall, his cold gaze making Feng Mian feel a chill. It was here that Feng Mian dug out Jiyu Jian's supreme bone. If it weren't for Jishu's command, he would have already torn Feng Mian to pieces. Do you need my help? Ning Xian asked softly. No need. Jishu shook his head and slowly walked towards the 6 saint-level experts. Looking at Jishu's back, Ning Xian bit her red lips lightly, her eyes filled with confusion. In her mind, she heard the prophecy of the Ning family's ancestor, there will be someone who will wield the great principal sword fetus and save the Ning family from danger. And now, she was more and more convinced that Jishu was that person. Be careful, this young man possesses the pure world demon flame. He is quite troublesome, a senior elder from the great Qin Empire reminded in a soft voice. Not only that, this young man also possesses an unknown and mysterious power in his body. This power is enough for him to kill a Saint Realm expert with his king-level cultivation. I have traveled the continent for so long, and this is the first time I have seen such a young person. Another senior elder spoke with a very serious tone. The bone blade is already dead in his hands. If you all want to leave alive, then let's attack together. A saint-level elder from the Divine Phoenix Empire also spoke up. Agreed. The 6 saint-level experts nodded simultaneously. They locked their gazes onto Jishu. At this moment, they were horrified to find that Jishu was emitting an extremely powerful and unparalleled martial will. It was so strong that it made the brows of the 6 saint-level experts ache. He stood in place, standing under the sky, shining brightly, like a heavenly emperor descending to the mortal world, overlooking all enemies. Jishu, do you really think you're invincible? The voice of the elder of the divine punishment in the great Qin Empire resounded throughout the forbidden grounds. Kill us before dawn. Who do you think you are? Zhou Dufu, the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire, had a gloomy expression. If Jishu had reached the saint rank now, they would naturally turn and leave without saying a word. But Jishu is currently only at the peak of the monarch rank. Even if his combat power is extraordinary and he possesses the pure world demon flame, he truly doesn't believe that Jishu can kill their 6 saint ranks with just the monarch rank body. You talk too much. Then I'll kill you first. Jishu's body emitted a brilliant immortal light, his gaze locked onto the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire. Clang. Jishu stepped on the shattered shadows of the star gods, his figure suddenly disappeared from its original position. His speed was so fast that the 6 saint ranks present didn't even have time to react. In an instant, he appeared in front of the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire. Seeing this, the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire's expression changed dramatically. The power of his saint rank erupted instantly, wanting to contend with Jishu. However, he overestimated himself and underestimated Jishu. In front of his eyes, chaos surged, and all he saw were a pair of fists, overwhelming and shattering everything. Pucci, the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire, spewed blood, his saint rank body crumbling inch by inch, his holy blood splattering. He flew out like a cannonball, his entire body's bones shattered, falling to the ground like a pile of mud, and his life flame extinguished rapidly like a burning candle. How is this possible? The remaining 5 saint ranks were all shocked when they saw this scene. If the old man with the bone knife didn't realize the existence of the pure world demon flame and fell because of it, then the senior of the divine Phoenix Empire was crushed by Jishu with a single punch. Moreover, what shocked them the most was that they seemed to have seen an unparalleled fist technique that could crush the world. This fist technique was completely beyond their comprehension, an existence that surpassed their understanding. Nothing is impossible. Jishu turned around slowly and looked at the 5 saint ranks. His expression was calm, his eyes cold and merciless. Kill! The 5 saint ranks roared, erupting their true essence together, tearing through the void as they attacked Jishu. This scene was shocking because the 5 saint ranks joined forces to attack a monarch rank, something that had never happened in the ancient history of the 9 heavens. But now, it was happening right in front of their eyes. This guy, where did he get so many trump cards? Ning Xiu's lips parted slightly as she murmured to herself. Jishu, he's defying the heavens. Moon Lady's throat rolled as she witnessed this shocking scene. Only now did she realize that what her sister Shui had told her was true. The saint rank powerhouses were nothing in front of Jishu, they were simply toys that couldn't withstand a single blow. He really could kill indiscriminately. This bad guy Jishu seems to have become stronger again. Shui Guniang looked at Jishu, who was fighting alone against the 5 saint ranks, her beautiful eyes sparkling. What kind of person is he? Chu Li looked at Jishu's figure, her beautiful eyes somewhat blurred. After the crown prince finishes killing this group of old things, he will come to deal with the 2 of you. So, please be patient. Wei Lao spoke coldly to Long Yuan and Feng Mian. Long Yuan and Feng Mian's faces turned ugly when they heard this. Now, they could only pray that the remaining 5 saint-rank powerhouses from the 2 great emperor countries could stop Jishu if they attacked together. But, if prayers were effective, there wouldn't be so many injustices and unfairness in the world. Outside the Imperial Dragon Hall, chaos energy enveloped Jishu's body, and the unparalleled aura made the chests of the 5 saint ranks standing near him feel suffocated. Clang, 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 clang. The 5 saint ranks each drew their saint rank weapons from the void. 3 holy swords, 1 war halberd, 1 blood knife. The 5 of them charged towards Jishu from 5 different directions, like 5 evil stars. But Jishu stood still, looking down on his enemies. He felt the killing intent approaching him, slowly raising his fist. With a punch, the great Tao mourned, chaos energy filled the air. This was the true heavenly emperor fist. At this moment, Jishu radiated a divine light, like a heavenly emperor descending, unstoppable. Boom! One of the elders of the great Qin Empire was the first to suffer. Jishu's punch directly crushed his war halberd. His face changed, quickly reacting. He raised his fists and wanted to clash head-on with Jishu. But the next second, he truly experienced the terror of the emperor's fist. Crack, crack, crack. His fingers broke inch by inch, followed by his arms exploding, and then his body shook violently, breaking into pieces. He was a powerful expert at the Saint Realm's 7th stage, but he fell directly under Jishu's punch, his soul returning to its origin, completely unable to resist. Roar! 2 Saint Realm experts from the great Qin Empire attacked. Jishu slowly turned around, a cold light flashing in his eyes. He pointed with his left hand, drawing a knife in the void, while his right hand ignited the pure world demon flame, the heavenly emperor fist. Clang! Jishu's finger drew 100 jong long scar. This strike was extremely sharp, as if it cut through day and night, as if it severed the boundary between yin and yang. The 2 splitting blade technique. The elder of the great Qin Empire's Saint Realm narrowed his pupils, just as the thought arose. A blade of light that was enough to shock everyone's eyes swept across his body. Crack! His entire body was directly snapped in half, and the sword in his hand turned into ashes. And that blade of light stretched across the sky, lasting for a long time, extremely shocking. The other Saint Realm elder, however, faced the terrifying power of the Emperor's fist combined with the pure world demon flame. Jishu's fist hadn't arrived yet, but just the aura of the Emperor's might caused the sword in his hand to shatter. When the punch landed, the Saint Realm elder's body shook violently, his skull directly shattered, crimson blood and white brain matter splattering all over the ground. Under the moonlight, chaos mist lingered. A hazy figure stood in the independent world. And under his feet were the corpses of Saint Realm experts. This shocking scene made everyone present shudder. Who exactly are you? The last elder of the great Qin Empire's divine punishment looked at Jishu with a pale face and shouted in disbelief. At this moment, there was no trace of his previous arrogance in his eyes, only the fear rising from the depths of his soul. Jishu, the crown prince. I give up. I will now take my prince and leave Northern Sha. I swear, I will never set foot in the capital of Northern Sha again. The divine Phoenix Empire was left with only 1 Saint Realm elder, and his voice trembled to the extreme. As soon as his words fell, the only response he received was a golden fist. Crack! The Saint Realm elder of the divine Phoenix Empire's brow bone was directly shattered, his body disintegrated, and he was completely shattered in the void, leaving only patches of blood mist. Ah! I'll fight you to the end. The last elder of the great Qin Empire's divine punishment roared, knowing that Jishu wanted to exterminate them all, so he erupted with the true essence of the Saint Realm, wanting to fight Jishu to the death. But the next second, a shocking blade light flashed in his eyes. Crack! A head flew high into the air. Blood spurted from the neck like a fountain, reaching a height of 10 jong. Splish splash! A rain of blood fell from the sky. At this moment, the entire imperial palace, and even the entire capital city, fell into silence. The night gradually faded, and the light of dawn arrived. And Jishu stood under this rain of blood and dawn, his white clothes still spotless, transcending the world. The day has dawned. Ding! Congratulations to the host for devouring a massive amount of Saint rank life force, advancing cultivation to Monarch rank 8 realms. Ding! Congratulations to the host for devouring a massive amount of Saint rank life force, advancing cultivation to Monarch rank 9 realms. Ding! Congratulations to the host for devouring a massive amount of saint rank life force, advancing cultivation to the peak of monarch rank 9 realms. Listening to the sound of the system prompts ringing in his ears, Jishu remained calm. He thought he would be able to directly break through to saint rank this time, but he didn't expect to fall just one step short. However, this can also be understood. After all, the strongest among the 7 saint ranks tonight is only at the 7th realm of saint rank, and they are all old and depleted in bloodline. So, being able to consecutively break through 2 realms by devouring the life force of these 7 saint ranks is already quite good. His thoughts stopped there. Jishu shook his head and then looked towards the Imperial Dragon Hall. They're dead. They're all dead. Long Yuan looked at the ground outside the Imperial Dragon Hall, filled with the corpses of saint ranks and the stairs covered in holy blood. His strength seemed to have been completely drained, and he collapsed to the ground. How is this possible? These are 7 saint rank powerhouses. Jishu, how did he do it? Feng Mian's face turned pale as paper. His mind uncontrollably replayed the scenes of Jishu slaughtering the saint ranks like slaughtering dogs. At this moment, Jishu slowly walked into the Imperial Dragon Hall. He calmly looked at Long Yuan and Feng Mian. And it was this calm gaze that instantly made Long Yuan and Feng Mian's hearts jump to their throats. Prince Heir, how do you want to deal with these 2? Old Wei's voice sounded hoarse. As soon as the words fell, Long Yuan trembled and suddenly knelt in front of Jishu, urgently speaking. Jishu, you can't kill me. If you kill me, the National Protector sect won't let you go. As long as you don't kill me, we can still be like before. I can be your puppet. And Chu Li, this woman, you can take her, do whatever you want. I'll pretend not to know. Hey, Chu Li looked at Long Yuan, who was almost scared out of his wits and started babbling nonsense, with a disdainful smile. National Protector sect, so what? They won't let this Prince Heir go. Do you think this Prince Heir will spare them? And Chu Li, she is already my woman, do you need to give me advice? Jishu's tone was very calm. Yan Fei, the Flame Princess of the National Protector sect, was the mastermind behind all of this. Therefore, he and the National Protector sect had long been irreconcilable. As for Chu Li, since that night, she had become his ally. After this incident, Chu Li had proven that he could trust her. Although her master was Yan Fei, it didn't matter. What Chu Li wanted was the Snow Moon City, and he could give her the Snow Moon City. Hearing these words, Long Yuan's heart truly hit rock bottom. As for Chu Li, for some reason, as she listened to Jishu's words, the corners of her mouth couldn't help but slightly curl up. She didn't want to admit it, but she somehow felt a strange sweetness in her heart. What do you want? If you want to kill, then kill. Long Yuan gritted his teeth and seemed to have resigned himself, so his tone became tough. Jishu thought for a moment and then spoke 4 words to Old Wei. Peeling, tearing tendons. As the words fell, Long Yuan didn't have time to react. He saw Wei Lao draw a silver knife and walk directly in front of Long Yuan. The silver knife swayed lightly. Poochie. The sound of splattering blood resounded. The silver knife directly pierced Long Yuan's clavicle. Ah! A scream of agony echoed throughout the entire palace. It should be noted that Wei Lao was once a killer instructor in the mortal world, and he had reached the pinnacle of various execution methods. He knew how to act, how to prolong the life of the person being tortured to the greatest extent. He also knew how to act in a way that would cause the person being tortured to experience the utmost pain. Ah, this is too cruel, Shui Guniang said softly with her head down. Hush, Yu Guniang shook her head at Shui Guniang. At this moment, a silver knife was handed to Yu Guniang. Yuaa, you go help Wei Lao. Yu Guniang was stunned for a moment, her gaze somewhat vacant as she looked at Chu Li. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Chu Li furrowed his brows slightly. No problem. Yu Guniang shook her head, then she took the silver knife handed to her by Chu Li and slowly walked towards Long Yuan. You don't mind, right? After all, we are allies. Chu Li smiled at Jishu. Up to you. Jishu shook his head. Of course, he didn't mind. At the same time, he admired Chu Li even more in his heart. After speaking, Jishu shifted his gaze slowly to the gloomy Fengmian. It was he who dug out Ji Yujian's supreme bone in the Imperial Dragon Hall. And now, it was time for him to repay the debt. Jishu, I am the Divine Phoenix Prince. If you dare to touch me, my father will definitely. Fang Mian glared fiercely at Jishu, but he didn't finish his words. A whistling sound rang in his ears. Snap! Jishu slapped Fang Mian with the back of his hand, sending him flying 3 jong away. He didn't use any true essence in this slap, relying solely on the power of his physical body. Otherwise, Fang Mian's head would have been slapped off by Jishu. You, how dare you? Fang Mian struggled to get up, his handsome cheeks swollen high, blood oozing from the corners of his mouth, and several teeth falling out. Smack! Before finishing his sentence, another slap landed on his face. At this moment, Fang Mian was completely stunned, his disheveled appearance reaching the extreme of embarrassment. He had never experienced such humiliation before in his life. For a moment, anger surged in his heart. He suddenly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot as he glared at Jishu with resentment. Jishu, if you have the ability, kill me. Or skin me alive and pull out my tendons. See what consequences it will bring you. Hehehehe. Upon hearing this, Jishu shook his head and smiled, a cold smirk appearing at the corner of his mouth. Kill you, skin you alive and pull out your tendons. Not enough. You, what do you mean? Fang Mian felt a sense of unease in his heart. You will find out, Prince of the Divine Phoenix Empire. After saying this, Jishu reached out and directly grabbed Fang Mian, walking towards the Imperial Dragon Hall. Jishu, where are you going? I will go with you. Chu Li spoke up. I want to go too. Shui Guniang also spoke up. Are you sure? Jishu turned slightly and looked at Chu Li and Shui Guniang, a faint curve appearing at the corner of his mouth. Sure. Chu Li didn't hesitate and followed Jishu, with Shui Guniang following suit. Of course, Chu Li also saw Ning Xian, but they didn't exchange any words. Shui Guniang had told her that Ning Xian was a mysterious figure with saint-rank cultivation. Where are you going? Ning Xian frowned and asked in a low voice. The prison department. Jishu responded with 3 words. Ah, is Jishu so kind-hearted that he just wants to imprison the Divine Phoenix Prince? Shui Guniang was somewhat surprised. Probably not. Chu Li shook her head. Based on her understanding of Jishu, he was not someone who shied away from trouble. If Fang Mian dared to dig Ji Yujian's supreme bone, then Jishu would not let him off, even if the Divine Phoenix Empire stood behind him. Soon, Jishu and his group, along with Fang Mian, arrived at the famous prison department in the capital. When the chief jailer saw Jishu, he immediately knelt down and respectfully said, Prince Jishu, I have arranged everything as you requested. The people you asked for, I have carefully selected 18 of them. Lead the way. Jishu nodded. Then, the group directly arrived outside a stinky prison cell. Inside the cell stood 18 fierce and muscular men, looking extremely intimidating. What do you want to do? Fang Mian's throat rolled, and a very bad premonition surged in his heart. Fang Mian, the noble prince of the Divine Phoenix Empire. The son of the Divine Phoenix Empire. Wherever you are, it's sunny, right? Jishu's mouth curled up in a cruel smile. You don't mess around. Fang Mian's voice trembled. Hey, Jishu shook his head, not saying anything, just silently looking at Fang Mian. Here you go, I'll return the longevity fruit to you. And the supreme bone too. Jishu, spare me. I promise not to set foot in the Northern Xia dynasty again. Fang Mian was scared, offering his storage ring and kneeling in front of Jishu, begging desperately. Fine, I'll spare you. But what about them? They probably won't spare you. After all, who wouldn't want to have their own son? Jishu sneered, then kicked Fang Mian into the prison cell without looking back. Afterwards, he left the prison department without turning back. Behind him, from the darkest and most foul-smelling prison cell in the prison department, came a scream of extreme agony, a desperate and hoarse cry. Stepping out of the prison department, Shui Guniang's pretty face turned deathly pale. Clearly, she had underestimated Jishu's ruthlessness. The revenge Jishu had taken on Fang Mian just now was beyond her imagination. Compared to the skinning and tendon-pulling in Longyuan, Fang Mian's suffering was truly miserable. It was worse than death, completely destroying his reputation. If this were to spread, it would be a disgrace to the world. Of course, what she didn't know was that this was exactly what Jishu wanted. Chu Li, on the other hand, looked at Jishu and couldn't help but sigh. This guy is too extreme. He's even more ruthless than I thought. Jishu looked up at the clear sky, then murmured slowly. It seems, the great Qin crown prince has also escaped. But it doesn't matter, because no matter where you go, my revenge will still come as promised. After one day, the events that happened in Kyoto spread throughout the entire northern Xia dynasty as if they had grown wings, quickly fermenting and spreading throughout the entire Nine Heavens continent at lightning speed. In a short period of time, Jishu surpassed the great demon lord, Yizan, and became the hottest figure in the entire Nine Heavens continent. With the cultivation level of a monarch, he killed 7 saint-level experts. When countless cultivators first heard this news, they scoffed at it. After all, below the saint level, all are ants. This is deeply ingrained in the minds of cultivators in the Nine Heavens continent. But now, they heard that a young man could kill saint-level experts with monarch-level power. This is simply unbelievable, no one would believe it. But soon, they were proven wrong. Because the Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion came forward and released a message. Last night, the Northern Xia Crown Prince Jishu single-handedly slaughtered 2 great emperor countries' 7 saint-level experts, staining Kyoto with blood. When this message was announced, the entire Nine Heavens continent first fell into a brief silence, then immediately boiled and even went crazy. Whether it was the independent cultivators of the Nine Heavens continent or the big shots of the cultivation forces, they all felt their minds buzzing and their understanding shattered. So countless places in the Nine Heavens continent staged dramatic scenes. Is it confirmed that Northern Xia Crown Prince Jishu, did he really kill 7 saint-level experts? Nonsense. The Heavenly Mechanism Pavilion has already confirmed it, how could it be fake? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Those are the lofty saint-level experts. Naive. You are all too naive. In front of Jishu, even saint-level experts are completely inadequate. No, no, no. I still can't believe it. How can a monarch level kill a saint level? Hehe. Let me tell you the truth. Crown Prince Jishu not only killed 7 saint-level experts, but also completely overwhelmed them. Those 7 saint-level experts had almost no ability to fight back in front of him. Hey, how do you know? Hehe. I am originally from Kyoto in northern Xia. My aunt, who is a beautiful widow, told me. And now, everyone in Kyoto knows about it. It's not a secret anymore. Hiss. Terrifying. Not only the independent cultivators of the Nine Heavens continent. Even the big shots of the top cultivation sects in the Nine Heavens continent were going crazy at this moment. Crimson Cloth Church. Janshin. This time, you said it was the Northern Xia Crown Prince who saved you on Heavenly Demon Mountain. Is that true? The beautiful woman in red, Shen Ruyu, looked at Shen Jan Shen with a shocked expression. Yes, it's true. Master, what happened? Shen Jan Shen asked with some trepidation. Jishu, that kid is extraordinary. Shen Ruyu let out a sigh of relief and solemnly told Shen Jan Shen the news that had exploded throughout the entire Nine Heavens continent. Indeed, Master. Shen Jangson's red lips curved into a shallow arc, filled with infinite pride and arrogance. As someone who had been marked with a slave seal, she could be said to be Jishu's most devout follower, her heart filled with Jishu. By the way, what is your relationship with Jishu? Shen Ruyu continued to ask. Well, we have a good relationship. Shen Janshin responded. Good, very good. Shen Ruyu, upon hearing this, felt extremely satisfied. Of course, what she didn't know was that the relationship between her beloved disciple and Jishu was even closer than she imagined. In the Great Qin Empire, in the Lingxiao Palace. He deserves it. He truly deserves to be the Northern Xia Crown Prince. 7 saint-level experts, all crushed by him with a wave of his hand. Ha ha ha. Refreshing, truly refreshing. The second prince of Great Qin, Yingling, laughed heartily in the palace. Your Highness, it is true that Jishu killed 7 saint-level experts, but among them, 4 were elders of our empire's divine punishment sect. What is there to be happy about? One of Yingling's trusted subordinates asked with a bitter smile. You know nothing. Yingling glared at his subordinate and then smiled with delight. My eldest brother lost 4 saint-level experts this time. Our father will definitely not let him off easily. And, this prince is now on the same boat as Crown Prince Jishu. With his help, the position of the Crown Prince can only be mine in the future. Ha ha ha. After saying this, Yingling felt that he had boarded Jishu's boat and that his future would be incredibly bright. He couldn't help but burst into laughter once again. After a moment, he suddenly thought of something and immediately turned around to ask, "Where is Yizan? How is the investigation going? Has that clown shown up?" Report to the second prince. We haven't found any trace of Yizan yet. Winling's confidant couldn't help but wipe the sweat off his forehead. Worthless. Continue the investigation immediately. This prince wants to offer flowers to Prince Jishu as soon as possible. If you embarrass me in front of Prince Jishu, I will take your heads. Winling glared at his confidant angrily and spoke fiercely. Understood, Your Highness. Should I continue the investigation, sir? HMPH. That's about it. Winling snorted lightly, then walked out of the palace and looked in the direction of Northern Sha, sighing. Prince Jishu. Oh my god. Dot 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 dot. 9 Heavens Continent, Dragon Clan Ancient Land, Panlong Island. This is the territory of the Forbidden Race, the Dragon Clan, on the continent. For thousands of years, apart from a few prominent figures standing at the top of the continent, hardly any cultivators dared to come to the Dragon Clan Ancient Land. Panlong Island, the Forbidden Back Mountain. A young girl in white clothes, carrying a box of crystal clear and extremely precious ancient dragon fruits, arrived in front of an ancient well. The girl was very beautiful and pure, with long black hair cascading down like a waterfall. There was a touch of vermilion on her forehead, and a gentle smile could brighten up the whole world. Hey, dumbass, this princess brought dragon fruits for you. After saying that, the girl directly threw the box of ancient dragon fruits into the well. After a moment, a weak voice came from the well. Thank you. Upon hearing this, the girl in white clothes smiled lightly and sat down by the well, saying, Dumbass, this princess remembers that you are also a cultivator from the 9 Heavens Continent, right? Today, this princess heard that a very powerful person appeared among the cultivators of the 9 Heavens Continent. He was able to single-handedly kill 7 saint-level experts with only a monarch-level cultivation. Even the emperor praised him as an unparalleled genius who subverted the ancient history of the 9 Heavens. Do you know who he is? I don't know. The person in the well responded calmly. Let this princess think. He seems to be called Jishu. He is the crown prince of the Northern Sha dynasty. If you know anything about this person, tell me. After saying that, the atmosphere fell silent for a moment. Then, a hoarse and furious voice sounded from the well. Get lost. Just get lost. Ah, the girl in white clothes was startled. She glared at the figure in the well, biting her lip and saying, You dumbass. Why are you so angry? It's really inexplicable. After speaking, the girl in white clothes snorted and turned away from the well. As the camera shifted, inside the well, a man covered in scabs all over his body, using his only left hand, forcefully hit the wall of the well, blood dripping. Jishu, you killed my master. You severed my right arm. I, Yizan, will never reconcile with you. After speaking, Yizan looked at the ancient dragon heart floating above the altar deep in the well, took a step forward, and fiercely bit into the heart. At this moment, he felt his body being engulfed in raging flames, burning his internal organs. The next moment, his expression became extremely twisted and ferocious under the intense burning pain. He curled up in the corner of the altar, gritting his teeth, and dragon blood flowed from the corners of his mouth, drop by drop. Master, please wait a little longer for your disciple. If your disciple is lucky enough to survive this time, when I come out of seclusion, I will personally kill Jishu to avenge you. Imperial Empire of the Divine Emperor, Great Thunderclap Monastery. Fang Huang, dressed in a simple white gown, knelt before a huge golden Buddha statue. With her hands clasped together and her beautiful eyes closed, her exquisite and stunning face was filled with devotion. Sister, these past few days, you have come to Great Thunderclap Monastery at least 10 times. Can you tell me why? Zhan Zhang sighed softly. Just to find a moment of peace in my heart. You don't have to worry about it. Fang Huang responded lightly. Is it because of Jishu? Did he do something to you? Ever since you returned from Heavenly Demon Mountain, you haven't been yourself. Chen Xan asked in a low voice, gritting his teeth. Upon hearing that familiar name, Fang Huang's delicate body couldn't help but tremble slightly. Her voice turned cold as she replied to Chen Xan. No, he didn't do anything. I told you, I just wanted a moment of peace in my heart. Upon hearing this, Chen Xan shook his head. As siblings, he could easily see that Fang Huang had changed significantly since their last meeting. She seemed much more gloomy, exuding a dangerous aura from head to toe. Even though he was her younger brother, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. But it was understandable. Before he left, Fang Huang had been severely injured by Jishu in Zhouling, and even her heavenly phoenix divine wings were torn in half by him. Who knows what cruel torture Fang Huang had endured from Jishu after he left. Thinking about this, it was normal for her to be different now. Given her personality, she probably wanted revenge. With these thoughts in mind, Chen Xan shook his head and sighed. Sister, Jishu has truly become famous now. The 7 holy ranks are completely insignificant in front of him. And Divine Ice Palace's Mu Bing has already gone to the capital of Northern Sha. If she marries Jishu, if you want revenge, you'll have to plan carefully. Upon hearing this, Fang Huang remained silent for a long time. Chen Xan didn't say anything further, he simply stayed quietly by Fang Huang's side. Just then, a seductive voice echoed in Fang Huang's mind. Are you offering incense to the gods to calm the unrest in your heart? He, Fang Huang, I have to say, you're really a complicated woman. Shut up. Fang Huang gritted her teeth and angrily scolded in her mind. Are you angry at me again? Or are you angry at yourself? You can't forget that night in Zhou Yuan, can you? Or Jishu's cold attitude towards you in front of Heavenly Demon Mountain, you still hold a grudge, don't you? And, you hate that you can't see your true self now, don't you? Shut up. I command you to shut up. Fang Huang roared angrily, stood up abruptly, clenched her fists tightly, and trembled with anger. Seeing this scene, Chen Xan's face turned pale with fright, and he whispered. Sister, I didn't say anything. Fang Huang looked at Chen Xan with a cold face and turned away. You shut up too. Huh. Chen Xan was taken aback for a moment. If she hadn't misheard, Fang Huang had just used the word, too. That night in Zhou Yuan. I have already forgotten. Don't mention it again. Fang Huang took a deep breath and said in her mind. Fine, forget it if you say so. But, it is true that Jishu is going to marry Mu Bing. Do you really not care? The seductive voice with a hint of teasing laughter echoed in her mind again. Ha! Fang Huang took a deep breath and gritted her teeth as she replied firmly. I don't care. I don't care. As soon as she finished speaking. Hey. A mocking laughter resounded in Fang Huang's mind. And at this moment, a woman in a green dress walked in quickly. Her name was Qinger, Fang Huang's personal maid. She came to Fang Huang, her face serious, and handed her a scroll. Miss, something bad has happened. Huh. Fang Huang opened the scroll with a cold face. The beginning of the scroll was written with 2 large characters, marriage contract. Miss, the Emperor has announced it to the world. In 7 days, you will marry the Crown Prince of Great Qin. HMPH. Fang Huang snorted and threw the marriage contract on the ground. Then she spoke coldly. My good father, he truly lives up to his reputation. Everyone in the world knows. But I am the last one to find out. And me. Chen Xan weakly raised his hand. Get out. Everyone, get out of here. Fang Huang's voice was icy. Upon hearing this, Chen Xan and Qinger quickly left the temple and stood quietly outside the main hall. After they left, Fang Huang stood in place, speechless for a long time. Her expression kept changing, as if she was struggling with something. But in the end, she made a decision in her heart. She was going to Northern Sha and find that person again. Just as she walked out of the Great Thunderclap Monastery, a middle-aged man wearing a crimson phoenix robe, exuding an imposing aura, came up with a few old men. Wanzher, where do you want to go? Upon hearing this, Fang Huang remained silent for a moment before gritting her teeth and speaking. Father, your daughter does not want to marry Prince Yingse of Great Qin. No, The middle-aged man shook his head decisively. Wanjer, I can grant you anything else. But this matter is non-negotiable. Your marriage with Prince Yingse of Great Qin is related to the future destiny of the Divine Phoenix Empire, and it has already been decided. You cannot refuse. But, Fang Huang was about to retort. The old men beside the middle-aged man had already approached Fang Huang. Princess Chong, return to the palace. HMPH. Fang Huang snorted coldly and looked at the several powerful elders of the Divine Phoenix Empire in front of her. In the end, she could only expressionlessly head towards the palace. It is worth mentioning that before she left, she passed a message to Zan Zhang. Tell Jishu, we will be married in 7 days. I want to know his attitude. Upon hearing this, Zan Zhang stared blankly at Fang Huang's disappearing figure, lost in thought. After a while, he snapped back to reality. Although he couldn't understand why Fang Huang wanted to know Jishu's attitude, he quickly followed Fang Huang's instructions and spread the message. Sister and Jishu, what exactly happened? After completing all this, Zan Zhang looked at the sky of northern Sha and muttered to himself. In the capital of northern Sha, Ji Mansion. Jishu looked at the scroll in his hand, his expression unchanged. What's wrong? Chu Li asked softly. In 7 days. Fang Huang is getting married. Jishu responded calmly. So what? Chu Li chuckled. She wants to know my attitude. Jishu put away the scroll and looked towards the direction of the Divine Phoenix Empire. So, what is your attitude? Chu Li asked with a smile. I have no attitude. I just think that some people are looking for death. They hurt me and still want to get married. It's truly laughable. A cold curve formed at the corner of Jishu's mouth. What, you want to elope? Chu Li teased with interest. Why not? After saying that, Jishu raised his hand, and demonic flames rose as the scroll turned to ashes in an instant. After doing all this, he turned and walked towards the fallen Maple Palace. He. Chu Li looked at Jishu's back and smiled, muttering to himself. Jishu's mouth is really stubborn. But, eloping is the most exciting thing. Shui Guniang and Yu Mis looked at each other, puzzled by Chu Li's words. They felt that eloping in the Divine Phoenix Empire was something only a madman would do. What was so exciting about it? On the border of northern Sha, in the sky, a magnificent ice boat raced through the sky towards the capital of northern Sha. On the ice boat sat 2 peerless beauties. Young Master Shigu. We have entered the territory of northern Sha. Mu Lengxin smiled and teased Mu Bing, who was meditating with closed eyes. Mu Bing lightly hummed, her voice without any ripples. When we arrive in the capital, young Master Shigu, are you going to marry Jishu? Mu Lengxin continued to ask. Perhaps. Mu Bing's red lips slightly opened, her exquisite face calm and serene. Tisk tisk. Mu Lengxin smacked her lips and playfully sighed. Time really flies. My young Master Shigu is finally getting married. Mu Bing heard this and remained silent. Mu Lengxin's eyes were filled with a deeper smile. But what Mu Bing didn't notice was, a trace of eerie soul-devouring light flashed in Mu Lengxin's eyes. Kyoto, the palace of the Eternal Emperor. Chu Li sat in front of the palace, in a great mood, brewing tea. The rich aroma of tea mixed with the intoxicating fragrance of passion flowers, creating a strange and enchanting taste. At this moment, the 2 girls, Yu and Shui, returned to the palace of the Eternal Emperor. Yu, tell me, how is Long Yuan? Chu Li took a sip of tea, smiled, and asked Yu Guniang. Miss, Long Yuan is dead. We only made less than 200 cuts on him with our swords. He chose to end his own life. Yu Guniang responded helplessly. It doesn't matter. If he's dead, he's dead. Chu Li responded nonchalantly. After speaking, she shifted her gaze to Shui Guniang. At this moment, Shui Guniang had her eyes lowered, tightly gripping her clothes, looking uneasy. Shui, where is Prince Fengmian of the Divine Phoenix? Is he doing well in the prison department? Chu Li casually asked. Ah, Shui exclaimed, blushing, and whispered in a small voice. Miss Fengmian, he seems mentally unstable. When I went to the prison department, he was huddled in a corner, disheveled, with a vacant look in his eyes, and he was babbling nonsense. And, he was surrounded by many men. It was quite a frightening scene. Chu Li nodded and muttered to herself. It seems that Jishu has achieved his goal. Next, let's see how he plans to use Fengmian as a pawn. Miss Yu Guniang seemed to remember something and hesitantly spoke up. I heard Jishu's fiancé will arrive in Kyoto soon. If Jishu and her get married, will it affect our alliance with Jishu? Yes. Shui also nodded heavily, complaining indignantly. That Jishu, he shamelessly claimed in the Imperial Dragon Hall that you were his woman. But now, he's the one getting married. Unfair, unfair. Hee. Chu Li shook her head and said. Jishu has no choice but to fulfill his engagement with Mu Bing. Just like how I became the Empress of Northern Sha, I had no choice. Don't worry, our alliance with Jishu is not a problem. Then, what about Mu Bing? Both Yu and Shui asked at the same time. Mu Bing, she is a problem. Chu Li supported her chin with her white hand and murmured softly. She had only heard of Mu Bing's name and knew that she was the junior sister of the leader of the Divine Ice Palace, extremely talented. As for the rest, she knew nothing, not even any useful information about her network. Yu, when will Mu Bing arrive in Kyoto? At the latest, tomorrow. Yu Guniang responded softly. Good, then I still have time. Chu Li nodded. What do you mean? Yu and Shui looked puzzled. HMPH. Chu Li raised her eyebrows and let out a disdainful hum, then raised her hand and drank the tea in her cup. A faint smile appeared on her red lips as she spoke softly. You two, have you ever heard of a night raid? Shui Guniang. Yu Guniang. Ji Mansion, the courtyard. This was where Old Wei lived. In the bedroom, Ji Yujian lay weakly on the bed. His breath had stabilized, and the power of life was gradually recovering. And on his chest, the wound was slowly healing, with faint rays of light seeping through. Thank you, Your Highness, for saving Ji Yujian's life. Old Wei bowed deeply to Jishu. All right, Old Wei. Ji Yujian is the person of the Crown Prince. Then naturally the Crown Prince cannot let anything happen to him. Jishu waved his hand. Just now, he had given Ji Yujian the elixir of eternal life and returned the supreme bone to him. In this way, Ji Yujian's life was saved. Not only that, but Ji Yujian, who had been brought back from the brink of death, would become even stronger in the future. He speculated that this cruel experience would probably turn this future spirit sword venerable into the evil sword venerable. Of course, this was also what he was happy to see. Opening the system store, Jishu spent 600 Essence of Destiny to buy a sword. Since Yuanong was damaged, it was natural to give Ji Yujian another sword. This sword was on par with Yuanong, not only extremely fierce but also carrying an evil nature. Your Highness, what is this? Old Wei looked at the fiercely sharp sword in Jishu's hand and was instantly shocked. Shark-toothed sword. When Ji Yujian wakes up, you will give him this sword on behalf of the Crown Prince. After Jishu finished speaking, he handed the sharp sword in his hand to Old Wei and then turned and left the Ji Mansion courtyard. Farewell, Your Highness. Old Wei bowed deeply again to Jishu's back. Now, Jishu returned to the Fallen Maple Palace and, with a turn of his wrist, took out a scroll. On the cover of the scroll was engraved a bright moon, which was Nan Lingyu's exclusive mark. Opening the scroll, there were only 2 lines written on it. National Protector Sect, no one is left. Be careful of Yan Fei. After reading Nan Lingyu's letter, black flames rose from Jishu's fingertips, and the scroll in his hand turned to ashes in an instant. The National Protector Sect is actually empty. The Emperor of Northern Sha and the elders of the National Protector Sect have all disappeared. No wonder the imperial power of Northern Sha has been overturned, but there has been no movement from the National Protector Sect. Wait, is this matter related to Yan Fei? His thoughts quickly turned. But in the end, Jishu couldn't come to a useful conclusion. Never mind, let's take it step by step. Since Yan Fei wants the world-purifying demon flame, then she will show up sooner or later. Jishu shook his head and pushed open the doors of the Fallen Maple Palace. On the bed in the sleeping chamber, Ji Yu Yao was sound asleep. Seeing this, Jishu sat quietly on the edge of the bed, reached out his hand, and gently touched Ji Yu Yao's delicate and beautiful face. Your Highness, you're back. Ji Yao opened her tired eyes and smiled gently at Jishu. Ji Jian's life has been saved. So, Yaoer, you should recover quickly too. Jishu spoke softly. Thank you, Your Highness. Ji Yao's voice was still weak, and her eyelids were heavy. After exchanging only a few words with Jishu, she fell back into a deep sleep. Yaoer, her bloodline has awakened too. It seems that she is finally going to embark on her path to becoming the Empress. Jishu took a deep breath and murmured to himself. Ji Yao's injuries had improved a lot, and her qi and blood had also recovered. Therefore, he could sense the increasingly powerful bloodline force within Ji Yao. She will undergo some significant changes in the future. Jishu whispered softly. In the novel, when Ji Yao's bloodline awakened, her personality would become more indifferent and domineering. Even Mu Bing, as her best friend, would hardly exchange more than a few words with her throughout the day. Moreover, after her bloodline awakened, Ji Yao would do whatever it took to achieve her goals and obtain what she wanted, regardless of the means. It was precisely because of her personality that she was able to restore the declining spirit clan to the #1 royal family in the 9 heavens. Thinking of this, Jishu smiled knowingly. He was looking forward to Ji Yao's future changes. His thoughts stopped there. Jishu closed his eyes and prepared to enter a state of cultivation. Mu Bing would arrive in the capital tomorrow. What he needed to do was elevate his own state to its peak and welcome his fiancée. Just at this moment, a graceful figure appeared outside the fallen maple palace. Under the moonlight, she wore an elegant phoenix-patterned long dress that trailed on the ground, exuding an air of grace and luxury. Her indescribably beautiful face was breathtaking under the moonlight. She stood quietly outside the fallen maple palace for a long time. After a moment, she looked up at the moon in the sky, and her red lips curved into a shallow arc. The moonlight tonight is beautiful. It's just like that night. Exhaling deeply, Chu Li took light steps and arrived in front of the bedroom. Raising her jade hand, she gently pushed open the palace door. Chu Li. Jishu opened his eyes and looked at the stunning figure before him with surprise. He didn't understand why Chu Li would come to him in the middle of the night. Prince Jishu, congratulations on your fame spreading throughout the world. Chu Li said casually with a slight smile. Empress. Visiting late at night just to say this. Jishu looked at Chu Li with amusement and asked. To be honest, he didn't care about fame spreading throughout the world. Chu Li appearing here now clearly had another purpose. And he was curious about this purpose. Of course not. I heard that Prince Jishu is getting married. May I ask if this is true? Chu Li said while closing the doors of the fallen maple palace. It is true. Jishu did not deny it. He and Mu Bing's engagement had been arranged since childhood. Both he and Mu Bing had made ample preparations for this wedding. Ha ha. Hearing this, Chu Li chuckled lightly and walked slowly to Jishu's side with her hands behind her back. She glanced at Ji Yao lying on the bed and teased. Miss Mu Bing, you will be coming to the capital soon. But now, Prince Jishu has a beauty in his bed. It seems, you don't care much about this wedding either. Jishu frowned and said. Empress, what exactly do you want to say? Chu Li thought for a moment and then, looking at Jishu with a dazed expression, she lightly opened her red lips. Now, my cultivation has reached the peak of the monarch rank 4th realm. I wonder if Prince Jishu can lend me a hand and help me break through this bottleneck. Jishu was taken aback for a moment. He looked at Chu Li, whose face was slightly flushed and extremely beautiful, and was momentarily speechless. He understood what Chu Li meant, but he didn't expect her to be so direct. Not saying anything, then I'll take it as Prince Jishu's agreement. Chu Li smiled slightly and then approached Jishu. At this moment, the two were very close, so close that Jishu could even hear Chu Li's slightly hurried and nervous breathing. And in the next second, when Jishu and Chu Li's eyes met, both of them had an inexplicable gleam in their eyes. Chu Li was the first to lean in and silence Jishu with a kiss. And Jishu couldn't help but embrace Chu Li's slender and soft waist. After a passionate kiss, Chu Li whispered in Jishu's ear. Your Highness, remember, this is a secret between you and me that cannot be spoken of. As she finished speaking, the curtains fell. The bright moonlight quietly spilled into the bedroom, and then shyly retreated. Empress, My Yaoer is still here. Shut up. I don't care. You're really bold. Focus. Oh. Dot 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 dot. Meanwhile, when the first ray of morning sunlight fell into the fallen maple palace, a series of crisp system prompts sounded in Jishu's ears. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the baptism of heavenly spirit yin, advancing cultivation to the first realm of the saint rank. Ding. Congratulations to the host for advancing cultivation to the first realm of the saint rank, receiving essence of destiny reward of 10,000 points. Ding. Congratulations to the host for reaching the saint rank first realm, receiving a system reward magic Dao origami crane. Hearing this, Jishu slowly opened his eyes and sat up suddenly. Saint rank, Jishu murmured in surprise. Then he carefully felt the surging power of the saint rank within his body and let out a breath. Indeed, the power of the saint rank and the power of the monarch rank were completely different worlds, different levels of existence. No wonder the saying, below the saint rank, all are ants, was so widely spread in the 9 heavens continent. If it weren't for his divine prohibition, heavenly emperor fist, and other powers that could be considered as heaven-defying grade, the saint rank, this mountain, would not be so easily crossed. Wait, I also obtained a magic Dao origami crane. Thinking of this, Jishu quickly took it out from the system's storage and held it in his hand. A black origami crane, it looks extremely eerie, with strands of strange black energy emanating from it. Prop name, Magic Origami Crane. Usage, ignite the origami crane to release its eerie magical power. Effect, can ignore cultivation level and turn anyone into a killing puppet. Duration, 7 days. Looking at the description of this magic origami crane, Jishu's eyes lit up. Ignore cultivation level. It can turn anyone into a killing puppet. This is too twisted. Jishu took a cold breath. At this moment, the first person he thought of was Mu Bing. His original plan was to have a life and death battle on their wedding night. But the problem was, he temporarily didn't know Mu Bing's true cultivation level and combat power. Nor did he know what other killer moves she had besides the soul-devouring nail. This was undoubtedly risky, but, now that he had the magic origami crane, then, why not expand the scope a bit? At this moment, an evil plan surged into his mind. Chu Li, you truly are this prince's lucky star. Jishu excitedly kissed Chu Li on the forehead. Thanks to Chu Li, he now had this super powerful trump card. Chu Li's long eyelashes trembled slightly as she slowly opened her eyes and looked quietly at Jishu. She slightly turned her body, supporting her chin with her jade hand, and lightly opened her red lips. What's wrong? Has Prince Jishu fallen in love with this palace? He. Jishu chuckled lightly and playfully replied to Chu Li. How did you know? This prince truly loves you to death. Hearing this, a blush flashed across Chu Li's stunning face, and her heartbeat suddenly skipped a beat. She cleverly avoided Jishu's fiery gaze and snorted arrogantly. HMPH. I didn't expect Prince Jishu to also use sweet words. But unfortunately, this palace is not fooled by you. After saying that, Chu Li got up on her own, elegantly straightened her long skirt, and turned her back to Jishu. Oh, leave first. In the future, this palace will find you again. After saying this, Chu Li directly left the fallen maple palace. This woman, her change of attitude is really fast. Jishu shook his head inexplicably, only then did he realize that Ji Yuyao was still sleeping. He silently made up his mind that the next time he met Chu Li in secret, he must not be so reckless. After all, it wouldn't be good if Ji Yuyao saw it. And what Jishu didn't know was that when Chu Li left the fallen maple palace, she happened to run into Lin Ru. Empress, why did you come out of Shoer's sleeping quarters? Lin Ru looked at Chu Li in surprise and asked. Ahem. Chu Li awkwardly coughed 3 times, then replied with a serious expression. Madam, why not go ask Prince Jishu? After speaking, she quickened her pace and hurriedly left Ji Mansion, heading towards her own Weiyang palace. This isn't right. Something's wrong. Could it be? Shoer is really with Chu Li. Lin Ru looked at Chu Li's fleeing figure and couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. After saying that, she quickly walked into the sleeping quarters. She looked at the neatly dressed Jishu and the peacefully sleeping Ji Yuyao, finally letting out a sigh of relief. She thought, even if her son was a bit outrageous, he wouldn't do anything inappropriate with Chu Li in front of Ji Yu Yao, right? Mother, why are you here? Jishu asked in surprise. You brat, quickly tidy yourself up. Binger is here. And, you better not have too much contact with Chu Li in the future. She's a bad woman. After saying that, Lin Ru turned and left. Who? Jishu took a deep breath, a cold light flashing in his eyes. Mu Bing, you've finally arrived. The wedding night. Nailed by the divine nail. The sky stained with blood. The demon god weeps blood. Jishu silently recited the plot from the novel, his expression becoming colder. After speaking, he calmed his emotions and, after sorting out his thoughts, left the fallen Maple Palace. He wanted to see what Mu Bing, whom he hadn't seen in so many years, had become. Whether she really had the ability to make him weep blood as a demon god. Ji Mansion, Purple Smoke Pavilion. Magnificent stone pillars, with divine dragons coiling around them. Gorgeous red carpets covering the entire palace. This was the Ji family's first banquet hall, a sight of opulence and luxury. Back then, Jishu and Mu Bing got engaged here, and even now, Jishu still vividly remembered the scene. As soon as he stepped into the Purple Smoke Pavilion, a graceful figure entered Jishu's line of sight. She was wearing a moon-white gown, standing with her hands behind her back in the center of the hall, her silver hair cascading down to her perky buttocks. She was as quiet as she was years ago. Mu Bing, long time no see, Jishu calmly spoke. As soon as the words fell, the woman turned around. Her eyebrows were beautiful, noble, and full of charisma. Her beautiful eyes seemed to contain the vastness of the stars and the sea, as well as the bone-chilling wind and snow on the top of a snow-capped mountain. Her delicate nose was elegant and refined, and her red lips were as enticing as a rose after the rain. Her entire face seemed to have been meticulously crafted by the creator. There was no doubt that her beauty had reached an extreme and breathtaking level. However, Jishu saw this unparalleled beauty and felt no emotional fluctuations. Instead, his heart grew colder. Because he knew that this woman in front of him was dangerous, and perhaps the person in this world who wanted him dead the most. Jishu, long time no see. Mu Bing's beautiful eyes casually swept over Jishu, and her red lips slightly opened. As soon as the words fell, for a moment, both of them fell into an awkward and silent atmosphere. Name: Mu Bing. Cultivation: combat power. Essence of destiny potential. Hint: this person is extremely dangerous. Jishu unexpectedly saw a string of question marks when he activated his all-seeing eye. At this moment, his mood became slightly heavy. It seemed that Mu Bing had undergone extreme changes in both cultivation and combat power over the years. Moreover, Jishu felt that Mu Bing seemed to be hiding something, otherwise why couldn't even his all-seeing eye see through her? Of course, just as Jishu was observing Mu Bing was also observing Jishu. If we talk about surprise, Mu Bing's surprise at this moment was no less than Jishu's. A mainland legendary level. This guy has suppressed 2 great emperor-level experts with his monarch-level cultivation. How did he do it? Even in the previous life, he didn't have such monstrous combat power. Moreover, why are the events in this life completely different from the previous one? Has he changed, or have certain causalities changed? Mu Bing's expression remained cold, but her heart surged with infinite emotions. At this moment, she couldn't see through Jishu in front of her, nor could she understand the causality. At the same time, she also vaguely sensed that the level of danger this man in front of her posed was even more terrifying than she had anticipated. Meanwhile, while the two remained silent, Mu Hua, Lin Ru, and Mu Lengxin entered the Purple Smoke Pavilion. Binger, long time no see. How is your master doing? Mu Hua approached Mu Bing with a smile, holding her hand warmly. Master is doing well. Thank you for your concern, senior brother. Mu Bing smiled gently at Mu Hua. Silly girl. Why are you still calling him senior brother? When you and Shou'er get married, you should call me grandma along with Shou'er. Lin Ru playfully said to Mu Bing. You're right. Mu Bing nodded. She lowered her eyelids slightly, hiding her emotions. But in Lin Ru's eyes, this made her even more favorable. After all, which mother wouldn't want to have such a well-behaved and introverted daughter-in-law? Jishu, long time no see. Thank you for your help on Heavenly Demon Mountain. Mu Lengxin approached Jishu with a smile and blinked her eyes. Now, in her mind, Jishu was her savior, and Yizan was the great demon king. You're welcome, Saintess Lengxin. Jishu glanced at Mu Lengxin and casually responded. Sure, don't chat with Lengxin for now. Come and entertain Binger. Lin Ru lightly patted Jishu's back and instructed. She thought that her son was so clueless. With a beautiful wife present, why not take this opportunity to get closer? Okay, Jishu nodded and sat down with Mu Bing. He picked up the wine jug and poured a cup of fine wine for Mu Bing thoughtfully. Thank you. Mu Bing's expression remained unchanged, but she seemed to have thought of something and asked. How is Ji Yu Yao? What about Ji Yu Jian? On the way to Kyoto, she heard about the situation of Ji Yu Yao and Ji Yu Jian, and she was very worried. Don't worry, Yaoer is fine. Ji Yu Jian, he also survived. Jishu lightly sipped the wine in his cup and responded casually. Jishu, I didn't expect you to go this far for them, the Ji Yu siblings. Mu Bing spoke softly. To be honest, she was really shocked by Jishu's slaughter of the 7 great saint ranks for the sake of Ji Yu Yao and Ji Yu Jian. In her impression of Jishu, it shouldn't have been like this. Otherwise, what kind of person do you think I am? Jishu asked indifferently. Hearing this, Mu Bing silently finished the wine in her cup. She didn't know how to respond to Jishu. Binger, did you bring the Ji family tiger token with you? Mu Hua smiled and asked. I did. Mu Bing nodded and directly placed the precious black jade tiger token on the table with her jade-like hand. Sure. What about the ice god jade? Lin Ru asked Jishu with a low voice. Here, Jishu placed the ice god jade pendant, emitting strands of icy breath, on the table. Good. Very good. Mu Hua nodded in satisfaction. She looked at Jishu and Mu Bing, her eyes full of doting. A perfect match. Such a perfect match. Lin Ru was in a good mood. No matter how she looked at it, her son Jishu and Mu Bing were a perfect match. Binger, sure, since you both care so much. When do you plan to hold the wedding? Mu Hua asked with a smile. As soon as the words fell, before Jishu and Mu Bing could respond, Lin Ru spoke first. Mother, I heard that the Divine Phoenix Empire's Princess Fang Huang and the Great Qin Empire's Crown Prince Yingxi will hold their wedding in the next few days. So why not choose that day for Shoer and Binger's wedding too? Dragon and Phoenix, auspicious and prosperous. Makes sense. Mu Hua nodded. In any case, the sooner the better. Mu Bing responded casually. If this wedding must take place, in her opinion, the sooner the better. In that case, tomorrow it is, Jishu said calmly. As soon as the words fell, both Mu Hua and Lin Ru were stunned. So urgent? Lin Ru asked in surprise with wide eyes. No, RG family's marriage alliance with the Divine Ice Palace. Naturally, the grander the occasion, the better. All of this needs time to prepare. And, your father and grandfather haven't returned yet. Mu Hua waved his hand. Just a wedding. What needs to be prepared? Besides, the Northern Sha imperial power has been overthrown. Your father and grandfather are leading our Iron Floating Tower army to clean up the remnants of the imperial family. For the time being, they can't spare the time to rush back to Kyoto. In that case, the sooner the better. Jishu said reasonably. Fine, tomorrow it is. When your father and grandfather return, we'll have another grand wedding. Mu Hua nodded, agreeing with Jishu's words. What she valued was the union of the Ji family and the Divine Ice Palace. As long as this matter came true, everything else was trivial. Good, tomorrow it is, Jishu and Mu Bing said in unison, showing a rare agreement. This is the young generation now. Lin Ru and Mu Hua exchanged glances and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Although they were helpless, as elders, they chose to agree. After all, the two young ones had spoken, what else could they do? My Shoer is finally getting married. Lin Ru let out a sigh of relief and hugged Jishu tightly. As a mother, she naturally felt deeply moved. Young Master's junior martial sister. You're finally getting married. Mu Lan also stepped forward and hugged Mu Bing. Her delicate body trembled slightly, showing her excitement. However, compared to the deeply moved Lin Ru and the excited Mu Lan, there was no smile on the faces of Jishu and Mu Bing. Their eyes were cold, and their thoughts were different. But, The day they had been looking forward to for so long was finally coming. But the wedding date has been set. On the eve of the wedding, Mu Bing came alone to Fallen Maple Palace. She looked at Ji Yu Yao, who was sleeping peacefully on the palace bed, with complex emotions in her beautiful eyes. Yaoer, her bloodline is awakening rapidly. So, Jishu really hasn't touched her all these years. How is that possible? What is Jishu really planning? Her thoughts churned. Suddenly, Ji Yu Yao's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and she slowly opened her eyes, looking at the woman in front of her with surprise. Miss Mu Bing, why are you here? Where is the crown prince? Upon hearing this, Mu Bing's exquisite face broke into a smile. Jishu is not here. I came to see you. Are you all right? Ji Yu Yao nodded, and then she seemed to think of something. She bit her red lips and suddenly asked, Miss Mu Bing, you are here to marry the crown prince, right? Mu Bing didn't speak, but her silence was an affirmation. Her plan was to leave the northern Xia dynasty with Ji Yu Yao and Ji Yu Jian after settling things with Jishu tomorrow night. I envy you. You will soon marry the crown prince. If I had Miss Mu Bing's good fortune. After saying this, Ji Yu Yao quickly fell into a deep sleep again. As her words fell, Mu Bing stood still in place for a long time. She could hear the deep envy in Ji Yu Yao's tone. Yaoer seems to have fallen for that guy. What should I do? Mu Bing sighed deeply, then got up and took one last look at Ji Yu Yao before leaving Fallen Maple Palace. At this moment, she bumped into Jishu. Here to see Yaoer? Jishu asked casually. Yes. Mu Bing nodded, not intending to chat with Jishu. She walked past him and headed towards the Moon Palace in Ji Mansion. Wait. Jishu stopped Mu Bing in her tracks. How is it? Mu Bing slightly turned her body and looked at Jishu with indifferent eyes. The wedding is tomorrow. Are you looking forward to it? Jishu's lips curved into a shallow smile as he casually asked. Yes, I am looking forward to it. Mu Bing responded expressionlessly. The wedding dress is beautiful. This crown prince has seen it for you. If you have time, you might as well try it on. Jishu calmly reminded her. Okay. Mu Bing responded coldly, then turned around and left Fallen Maple Palace. Hey, Jishu sneered and looked up at the bright moon in the sky, speaking softly. Mu Bing, tomorrow night, this crown prince is also looking forward to it. As his words fell, a graceful figure arrived in front of Jishu in no time. She wore a snowy white dress, with a beautiful appearance and an otherworldly temperament, exuding inherent pride and holiness. However, at this moment, there was a gleam of soul-devouring light deep in her eyes, making her seem slightly dazed. Princess of the Holy Maiden. Tomorrow night, I'll leave it to you. Jishu spoke casually. Stood. Mu Lan responded mechanically. Good night, Holy Maiden. Jishu waved his hand. Upon hearing this, Mu Lan nodded and turned to walk towards the Fallen Moon Palace. Throughout the journey, her expression remained dull and numb, until the moment she stepped into the Fallen Moon Palace. The light of her soul in her eyes completely disappeared, and her gaze and expression gradually regained their former radiance. Young junior sister, Mu Lan called out with a gentle smile. It's so late, Lan Shen. Why didn't you rest and came to the Fallen Moon Palace? A helpless voice came from the Fallen Moon Palace. Young junior sister, I missed you. Mu Lan smiled and spoke. Sigh. Mu Bing sighed and slowly walked out of the Fallen Moon Palace. At this moment, she had changed out of the moon-white long dress and put on the wedding dress specially prepared for her by Lin Ru. Under the moonlight, she wore a golden long dress, draped in a magnificent phoenix cape, with a golden glass crown on her head and a golden silk ribbon tied around her waist. Her whole body exuded extreme nobility and enchantment. Just as Jishu said, the wedding dress was beautiful, and now Mu Bing wearing this exquisite wedding dress was even more dreamlike. Even Mu Lan couldn't help but hold her breath, standing still as if deeply shocked by Mu Bing's beauty. Mu Bing raised her eyebrows, somewhat puzzled. Why aren't you saying anything? Young junior sister. You are so beautiful. Mu Lan swallowed her saliva and immediately threw herself into Mu Bing's arms. You little child. Mu Bing hugged Mu Lan with a helpless shake of her head. Young junior sister. Believe me, tomorrow, you will definitely amaze everyone. Even on the wedding night, that guy Jishu will definitely fall at your feet. Mu Lan confidently spoke. Hee. Perhaps. Mu Bing calmly spoke. A cold light flashed in her eyes as sharp as the wind and snow on the top of a snowy mountain. Tomorrow night, everything will come to an end. Thinking of this, Mu Bing reached out her jade hand and gently stroked Mu Lan's hair. Young junior sister, wishing you a happy wedding. Mu Lan sweetly smiled and then turned and left the Fallen Moon Palace. Upon hearing this, Mu Bing stood in place for a long time, her emotions inexplicably complex. This life is too different. The Northern Xia royal family failed to destroy the Ji family, but instead, it was destroyed by Jishu. Ji Yujian failed to pay respects to the sword god of the nine heavens as his master, and Ji Yuyao fell in love with Jishu. The enemy of the nine heavens became a guy named Yi Zan. She couldn't understand all of this. But she only knew one thing, Jishu seemed to have become more dangerous. After a moment, Mu Bing turned her wrist and drew a hilt from the void. The sword body seemed to be hidden in the void, invisible to the naked eye, as if it didn't exist. But this sword emitted an extremely sharp and terrifying pressure, and faintly, there was a trace of imperial might emanating from it. Above the sky of the capital, the bright moon hung high. The beautiful moonlight enveloped the bustling city of the capital, as if draping it in a silver veil. Mu Bing glanced at the bright moon, then raised her hand and fiercely stabbed the moon in the sky. This sword seemed to shatter the moonlight, and the beautiful moonlight fell on her shoulders like scattered petals. At this moment, the sword body in her hand was revealed for an instant under the fading moonlight. This sword was truly sharp to the extreme. But it was only for an instant, and the sword body disappeared into the void again. A decade of honing a sword. Just to kill the demon god today. Mu Bing opened her red lips, her voice icy and cold, her beautiful eyes were truly chilling, and her heart gradually became firm. Outside the fallen maple palace. Jishu sat under the moon, drinking tea. On the stone table, there was a scroll, which came from the divine phoenix. On the scroll, 3 lines of words were particularly eye-catching. Great Qin Crown Prince, the winning strategy has arrived at the imperial capital. Divine Phoenix Princess, Fang Huang is imprisoned. The wedding is approaching. May I ask if the Crown Prince invites the wind and rain? And worth mentioning, on this scroll, there was also a black origami crane placed, and the moonlight pouring down on the origami crane appeared particularly eerie. Jishu looked at this black origami crane, his eyes devoid of sorrow or joy. After a moment, a faint smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Everything is ready, just waiting for the east wind. The day of the grand wedding. The sky had not yet brightened, but the entire city of Kyoto was already bustling. Countless iron floating towers soldiers had changed into red armor, guarding every corner of Kyoto with an imposing presence. The matriarch of the Ji family, Lin Ru, had given strict orders that anyone who dared to act recklessly today would be killed without mercy. Furthermore, all the restaurants in Kyoto had been booked by the Ji family, and all expenses were to be borne by them. Along the red carpet that almost covered the entire Kyoto, stood beautiful girls in colorful dresses. The girls held flowers in their hands, their smiles radiant, truly a sight to behold. Northern Xia Royal Academy, Northern Xia Inspection Institute, Northern Xia Kyoto 6 Departments, Northern Xia Imperial Guards, Hulong Mountain Villa, Dali Temple, Prison Management Office. The important figures of various forces in Kyoto had arrived early outside the Ji family military mansion, eagerly awaiting. They had been on the same boat as Jishu 10 years ago. Now, with the Northern Xia imperial power overthrown and the patriotic sect remaining silent, the Ji family had become the true ruler of the Northern Xia dynasty. And Jishu had become the only true god of the Northern Xia dynasty. With a single word from him, a force could be destroyed. With a single word, a force could rise to prominence. Therefore, on Jishu's wedding day, these intelligent and influential figures naturally wanted to seize the opportunity and be the first to make an impression in front of Jishu. What others didn't know was that Jishu's wedding was only announced yesterday. But these important figures had truly gone all out, mobilizing the entire resources of the Northern Xia dynasty in just one day, wanting to present their gifts to Jishu. So although the wedding was held in Kyoto, the entire northern Xia dynasty was shaken by the madness of these figures. After all, whoever could become Jishu's confidant, gain his trust, their family and their power would soar in the northern Xia dynasty. Even more so, they thought that as long as they could get closer to Jishu, even if it was just half a step, it would be the greatest honor for them. Inside the fallen Maple Palace, Jishu woke up early. And Ji Yuyao unexpectedly did not go back to sleep today. She attentively served Jishu in bathing and changing clothes. She dressed Jishu in a luxurious golden robe, tied a golden jade belt around his waist, and put on a golden crown. This outfit made Jishu shine, exuding an extraordinary aura, truly stunning. "My Lord Crown Prince, you look so handsome." Ji Yuyao's beautiful eyes shimmered with a star-like brilliance as she spoke softly. "My Yaoer looks beautiful too." Jishu gently rubbed Ji Yuyao's hair. "Crown Prince, we're finally getting married. Yaoer is very happy." Ji Yuyao gently hugged Jishu, her eyes slightly lowered to hide the sadness in them. "Is my Yaoer jealous?" Jishu sensed Ji Yuyao's complex emotions and asked softly. "Not at all. Yaoer is happy for the Crown Prince. Miss Mu Bing is very good. She is the junior sister of the Divine Ice Palace's palace master and the future leader of the Divine Ice Palace. And, she is beautiful, with strong talent in cultivation. Only someone like her is worthy of the Crown Prince. Yaoer only hopes to be by the Crown Prince's side in the future and be content." Ji Yuyao's voice was very gentle. She wasn't lying, she truly thought so. But even so, seeing Jishu getting married now still made her heart ache. After all, no woman in the world would not feel sad and hurt when she sees the person she loves getting married. "Do you know, Yaoer, from the moment I entrusted the General's Intelligence Bureau to you, you are destined to accompany me forever. In the future, even if you want to leave, I won't let you go. You, Ji Yuyao, can only be mine. Mine alone." Jishu spoke with great seriousness. After that, Jishu gently kissed Ji Yuyao's forehead. "Crown Prince." Ji Yuyao raised her head in a daze, tears shimmering in her beautiful eyes. Jishu's words were too gentle, so gentle that it moved her deeply and gave her peace of mind. So she held back her emotions for a moment, and 2 lines of clear tears flowed from her eyes, wetting her exquisitely beautiful face. She bit her red lips, her voice tinged with a sob. "That's enough, hee." Jishu chuckled softly, raising his hand to gently wipe away the glistening tears on Ji Yuyao's face before speaking. "Let's go, Yaoer." Ji Yuyao softly responded. Just as they walked out of the palace gate, they saw Old Wei and Ji Yujian waiting quietly in the courtyard. "Greetings, Crown Prince." As soon as Ji Yujian saw Jishu, his eyes turned red and he immediately knelt in front of Jishu. He knew everything Jishu had done for him. But he is not good with words, even if he is deeply moved, he can only express it in this sentence. However, he had already secretly vowed in his heart that he would strive to become stronger. Strong enough to clear all obstacles in front of Jishu. Strong enough that in the future, Jishu will not waste any energy and be able to reach the pinnacle of the continent. "You're still injured. Why don't you rest?" Jishu frowned and asked. "Your Highness, today is your wedding. No matter how serious the injury, it doesn't matter. Ji Yujian hopes to see you get married. It means a lot to me." Ji Yujian looked at Jishu with determination. "Get up." Jishu smiled slightly and helped Ji Yujian up. "Let's go. Let's go to the Purple Smoke Pavilion together." After saying that, Jishu led the group towards the Purple Smoke Pavilion. In front of the Purple Smoke Pavilion, the sides of the red carpet were filled with important figures from the capital. When they saw Jishu arrive, the important figures all respectfully bowed and called out, "Greetings to His Highness the Crown Prince." Upon hearing this, Jishu nodded slightly towards them. And looking at Jishu, who had changed into his wedding attire, both Lin Ru and Mu Hua were deeply moved. Their precious son, Jishu, is finally getting married. Just at this moment, the protagonist of today, the bride Mu Bing appeared. The once lively Purple Smoke Pavilion instantly became quiet. Everyone present held their breath at the beauty of Mu Bing. She took off her moon dress and put on an extremely luxurious and stunning golden dress, the long dress trailed on the ground, accentuating her slender waist, outlining her unparalleled charm. Her face, as if carved from ice and snow, with a touch of makeup today, her jade lips lightly touched with rouge, truly exuding endless beauty. Mu Bing, the future leader of the Divine Ice Palace. Her status, bloodline, and talent are all unique in the world. Her appearance is unparalleled, captivating the world. Upon seeing her, countless people held their breath because of her beauty. In their hearts, they sighed, as if only such a woman could match their crown prince Jishu, and rely on each other. Truly worthy of Binger. Lin Ru sighed. At this moment, she looked at Mu Bing standing beside her precious son, and she had even thought of the names of their future children. They are truly a perfect match. Mu Hua also had a smile on her face, looking satisfied as she watched Jishu and Mu Bing, who stood together like a fairy couple. The wedding began. Jishu took the initiative to hold Mu Bing's hand and slowly walked up the red carpet towards the purple smoke pavilion. And worth mentioning, at this moment Mu Bing did not resist at all, but instead held Jishu's hand. At this moment, the two of them moving forward and retreating together truly resembled a newlywed couple about to enter into marriage. Inside the purple smoke pavilion, the solemn wedding ceremony was underway. Jishu and Mu Bing cooperated quietly with the ceremony. Everyone's eyes were filled with smiles as they watched the couple who looked like celestial beings. At the end of the ceremony, Jishu and Mu Bing looked into each other's eyes and recited the last sentence of the Northern Sha wedding vows. I belong to you, you belong to me, from this day forward, till death do us part. As the words fell, 100 cannons on the city walls of the capital simultaneously fired. Endless fireworks bloomed in the sky, falling down with dazzling splendor. The entire capital's people and cultivators were immersed in this wedding and found it hard to extricate themselves. At the end of the wedding, Ji Yu Yao walked out of the purple smoke pavilion, her eyes red. And at this moment, a teasing laughter came from behind her. Miss Ji Yu Yao, it seems you really love Jishu. Upon hearing this, Ji Yu Yao turned around and saw Chu Li leaning against the divine dragon pillar. Empress, the crown prince has already gotten married. So, please be more restrained in the future, Empress. Ji Yu Yao left these words and turned to leave. This girl. Could it be that she was awake that night? Chu Li raised an eyebrow. She hadn't expected this. However, she felt that she had unintentionally taught Ji Yu Yao a lesson. When you like someone, when you want something, you should take the initiative. So what if Jishu is married? She doesn't care. A wedding. The entire city of Kyoto turned into a boiling ocean. Even as night fell, the lively atmosphere in Kyoto did not dissipate in the slightest. The night sky, with its bright moon, was adorned with brilliant fireworks. The major restaurants in Kyoto were still bustling. The people of Kyoto, as well as the monks, were all drinking and talking excitedly about the grand wedding today. G Mansion, Fallen Maple Palace. The candlelight flickered, and red silk curtains adorned the room. The bride wore a phoenix crown and a red veil. Outside the palace window, the moonlight was radiant, and the fireworks were enchanting. A ray of moonlight spilled into the Fallen Maple Palace, landing on the woman sitting by the bed. After the wedding ceremony, Mu Bing had been sitting by the soft bed for a long time. No one knew how she was feeling at the moment, but it could be seen that her beautiful face under the golden pearl curtain was extremely cold. Tonight, she had mixed feelings. After all, it was her first marriage. At the same time, she was also very nervous. Even though she had simulated countless scenes of assassinating the demon Jishu in her mind for 10 years. But when it came to the moment, she was still very nervous. In her plan, she knew that she had to make sacrifices to achieve a perfect assassination. So, on this wedding night, she had already prepared herself mentally. Just then, there was a sound of footsteps outside the Fallen Maple Palace. Mu Bing's heart suddenly tightened, her jade hand clenched into a fist, and her breathing became slightly rapid. On the night of the wedding. How ironic. Jishu stood outside the palace gate and sneered, then pushed open the door and walked in. Entering the Fallen Maple Palace, Jishu didn't say anything, he just quietly stood beside Mu Bing. Both of them remained silent, only the red candles on the table swayed gently in the soft night breeze. What are you waiting for? Mu Bing took a deep breath and broke the silence by speaking first. Upon hearing this, Jishu raised his hand and slowly took off the phoenix crown with the golden pearl curtain from Mu Bing's head. At this moment, a dreamlike and extremely stunning face came into view. You tonight, indeed, very beautiful, Jishu spoke calmly. And then, what are you waiting for? Mu Bing looked at Jishu's beautiful eyes without joy or sorrow and asked again. What do you think I'm waiting for? Or, what are you waiting for? Jishu stared at Mu Bing's beautiful eyes without any emotions and asked back. Upon hearing this, Mu Bing was instantly stunned. This scene seemed a bit different from what she had imagined. This Jishu guy was too calm on the night of their wedding. Mu Bing took a deep breath and then said. Tonight, we are newlyweds. I am waiting for my husband to kiss me. Is that so? Jishu's mouth curved into a mocking arc, but he made no move. At this moment, he just wanted to quietly watch Mu Bing's performance. That's it. What else could it be? Mu Bing nodded, then she unexpectedly took the initiative to grab Jishu's hand and kissed his lips firmly. The intoxicating fragrance of flowers permeated the air. Jishu felt the softness on his lips, but his expression remained unchanged. In fact, his eyes became even colder and more mocking. After a kiss, Mu Bing's eyelashes trembled slightly, and a faint blush appeared on her beautiful face. She stared at Jishu, who had a cold and ruthless expression, and couldn't help but bite her lip and whispered. Jishu, what do you mean? What are you waiting for? Even if this marriage is not what we wanted. But since the die is cast, we are already husband and wife. Now, with that cold face, who are you trying to impress? Husband and wife. Ha ha ha. Jishu shook his head and laughed, looking at Mu Bing with interest, and said. What do you think I'm waiting for? What are you expecting? Mu Bing was speechless, her expression becoming even colder. After a moment, Jishu stood up and walked to the palace window, looking up at the bright moon and dazzling fireworks in the night sky of the capital, and said. Mu Bing, are you expecting a passionate night on our wedding night? HMPH. Mu Bing coldly snorted and asked in return. Jishu, in your eyes, am I Mu Bing such a promiscuous woman? No, you're not. Jishu shook his head and calmly turned around, expressionless, and said. So, what you're expecting is not a moment of passion. But, to kill me, your husband, right? As he finished speaking, Mu Bing trembled, feeling an inexplicable coldness surging from the depths of her soul. You already knew. Mu Bing slowly stood up, her beautiful eyes trembling as she looked at Jishu. Yes, since our first meeting, I already knew. Jishu calmly spoke, a mocking smile appearing on his lips. As he finished speaking, clang, a sharp sword light surged. Mu Bing held the shadowless sword, pointing it at Jishu, an aura of imperial power emanating from the sword. At this moment, she appeared like an icy empress, majestic and cold, and questioned Jishu sternly. If you already knew, why continue this absurd wedding ceremony? Ha ha. Jishu chuckled and said. It's simple. My mother and grandmother wanted it. So, I'll give it to them. So, tonight, you were prepared. Mu Bing gritted her teeth and said in a low voice. Prepared indeed. Jishu nodded, then clapped his hands. Clang. The doors of the fallen maple palace opened. Old Wei walked in with a woman in a snowy dress. Langson. Mu Bing looked at Old Wei, who had disheveled hair and a pale face, and her pupils contracted. What do you think? Do you want to watch her die? Jishu calmly asked. Phew. Mu Bing took a deep breath and coldly looked at Jishu as he slowly spoke. Evil demon, no matter what happens today, you and I must settle this. Even if you killed the saintess of my divine ice palace, it remains the same. He. Upon hearing this, Jishu couldn't help but laugh. Evil demon, Mu Bing, tell me. What is the righteous path? What is the demonic path? HMPH. Mu Bing snorted coldly and said expressionlessly. To benefit all living beings is righteous. To slaughter all living beings is demonic. What is right is right. What is wrong. Regarding this point, you, Jishu, will never understand. So, have you seen demons? Jishu looked at Mu Bing with a hint of amusement. Of course I have. Mu Bing responded coldly. She had seen enough of the scene where the Demon King sat in the middle and the gods stood on both sides. The scene of casually slaughtering the ancient dynasty, effortlessly reducing a prestigious family to ashes, and bloodily massacring countless beings was still vivid in her mind. Countless righteous cultivators sacrificing themselves for the sake of the world, their passionate and heroic scenes had a deep impact on her. That's why she always believed that there was a reason for her to return to the era when the demon god Jishu rose to power. To prevent Jishu from creating a dark dynasty after the Dark Era, to save all living beings, that was the meaning of her rebirth. Even though the person in front of her was not yet the demon god. But she knew that destiny was unchangeable because it was destiny. No matter what, Jishu would eventually become the demon god that made the 9 heavens tremble. Right is right, and demonic is demonic. That's why she wanted to kill Jishu. Very well. Jishu nodded and then smiled. This prince has never seen the demon god. But I have seen all living beings. Finally, this prince hopes that you will also see the beings of the 9 heavens. What does he mean? Mu Bing frowned. Release her. Let her reunite with her little junior sister from her family. Jishu said to Elder Wei. Yes. Elder Wei nodded and then unfroze Mu Lengxin's true essence. He let Lengxin go. This strange thought suddenly arose in Mu Bing's mind. She saw Mu Lengxin staggering towards her. Lengxin, are you all right? Mu Bing asked softly. Junior sister, I'm fine. Mu Lengxin bit her lip and shook her head, her face pale. Good. Later, junior sister will take you away from here. Mu Bing said softly. Okay. Mu Lengxin nodded, and just at that moment, a glimmer of soul-stealing light flashed in her eyes. Clang! A bright light from a silver knife appeared. The temperature in the air suddenly rose. The silver knife was covered in surging flames, it was the pure world demon flame. Clang! The silver knife stabbed behind Mu Bing. But a burst of dazzling immortal light erupted from her body, causing the silver knife to shatter, and Mu Lengxin was sent flying. Soul Calamity. Mu Bing noticed the soul calamity light in Mu Lengxin's eyes and couldn't help but exclaim in shock. If it wasn't for the mysterious power in her body protecting her just now, she would have fallen into Jishu's trap. At this moment, all the doubts in her mind were resolved. Heavenly Demon Mountain. Li Wangsheng was killed by you. Zhao Wuji was also killed by you. All the people who stood on your side had their souls taken by you. It was you who framed everything on that cultivator named Yi Zan. Mu Bing stared at Jishu with a burning gaze. Yes. That's right. Jishu shrugged. No wonder it's you. Jishu. Mu Bing took a deep breath. She knew that there must be someone manipulating the situation behind the scenes in the Heavenly Demon Mountain battle. She also knew that the person most likely to be behind it was Jishu. Tonight, let's settle this between you and me. Mu Bing said coldly. Hee. Jishu shook his head and muttered meaningfully. Right is right, evil is evil, correct is correct. Wrong is wrong. Mu Bing, didn't you want to save all living beings? Very well, next, this prince hopes you can see all the people in this world. As he finished speaking, Jishu raised his hand, and demonic flames rose from his fingertips. A black paper crane could be seen burning in the demonic flames. Strands of black smoke rose. Clang! In that instant, the sky over Kyoto became incredibly dark, as if all the light in the world had been swallowed up. Black streams of air flowed around Mu Bing, leaving a black mark on her snow-white neck like a kiss mark. Mu Bing stared blankly at this scene. She could feel her entire body's power dissipating rapidly. The 3 trump cards she had prepared for Jishu. She couldn't even use a single one. For a moment, she panicked. What is this? Mu Bing pressed her neck with her jade-like hand, her beautiful face turned pale. She could feel her soul being burned. Her consciousness seemed to be slowly drained by a mysterious and irresistible force. The remnant soul of the great emperor within her also let out a mournful roar. But soon, she felt her consciousness sinking into a dark abyss. She felt her eyelids becoming unbearably heavy, struggling several times, and finally slowly closed her eyes. Ding! Congratulations, host, for igniting the Demon Path paper crane. Ding! System prompt, the killing puppet Mu Bing is loading. Ding! System prompt, the loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 10%. Ding! System prompt, the loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 20%. Ding. System prompt. The loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 30%. Ding. System prompt. The loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 70%. Ding. System prompt. The loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 80%. The crisp sound of the system prompts echoed in Jishu's ears. When the progress reached 70%, black demonic smoke floated around Mu Bing's delicate body, shrouding her in an ominous and eerie aura. When the progress reached 80%, a vast surge of demonic power churned and gathered within her, and purple demonic light emanated from her silver hair, resembling a heavenly demoness. Your Highness, what is this? Old Wei looked at Mu Bing, who had undergone such a drastic change in just a few breaths, with a horrified expression, unable to help but swallow his saliva. He had never seen such a vast and powerful demonic power before, and this power was growing exponentially. He even felt as small as a ridiculous ant under this power. Hush, it's not over yet. Jishu shook his head and spoke softly, his eyes flickering with cold light. The power of the demonic crane technique could instantly turn a person into a slaughter puppet, regardless of their cultivation level. And during the time as a slaughter puppet, all qualities and abilities related to combat power would undergo a qualitative leap. When the loading progress reached 90%, the boundless demonic light shimmering around Mu Bing had almost solidified and was about to burst out of her body. Ding. System prompt. The loading progress of the slaughter puppet Mu Bing has reached 100%. When the final system prompt sounded, the demonic power within Mu Bing reached its peak, and the boundless demonic light surrounding her erupted with a thunderous roar. Boom! This light was extremely sharp, as if it could tear through the heavens, with immense power that was unparalleled. For a moment, the light soared into the sky, tearing through the 9 heavens and heading towards the heavens above. The boundless demonic light connected heaven and earth, and within its depths, a black paper crane was burning brightly. It seemed to be struggling on the boundless sea. This scene was extremely shocking. At this moment, the entire continent, no, the entire 9 heavens world witnessed this boundless demonic light that connected heaven and earth, as well as the black paper crane hidden within. Even the cultivators of the 9 heavens continent felt deep fear and unease under this overwhelmingly powerful demonic power. In the capital, millions of cultivators and commoners stared blankly at the boundless demonic light, their backs soaked in cold sweat. That is the direction of the Ji family military mansion. Could it be that the Ji family has summoned some great demon god? I don't know, this power is too terrifying. Who could have awakened such a terrifying demonic power? Is he trying to destroy the world? Isn't he afraid of divine punishment? Do you think it could be Jishu, the crown prince? Hush, don't speak recklessly. The same thing was happening in every corner of the 9 heavens continent. Divine Ice Palace, Crimson Cloth Church, Heavenly Strategy Military Mansion, 10,000 Poison Valley, Saint Sect, Profound Heaven Sword Sect, Great Thunderclap Monastery. The leaders of the 7 top cultivation sects trembled as they gazed at the boundless demonic light that connected heaven and earth in the direction of Northern Sha, speechless for a long time. The revival of the demonic path. This is going to overturn the entire continent. Is it the Supreme Heaven, the Holy Empress Nan Lingyu? If it's her, I'm afraid the 9 heavens continent will be in chaos from now on. It's over. It's really over. 9 heavens continent, heavenly demon mountain, supreme heaven. Nan Lingyu stood with her hands behind her back on the mountaintop, her cold gaze fixed on the boundless demonic light in the direction of Northern Sha, her eyebrows slightly raised. A black paper crane, so powerful, such a mysterious demonic power. And the owner of this power. Besides Jishu. I can't think of anyone else. But what does this guy want to do? No more pretending, is it time to reveal himself? Is he planning to completely eradicate the righteous forces of the 9 heavens continent? He. Regardless, I quite like it. With that, she lightly pursed her red lips, and a shallow smile appeared on her stunningly beautiful face. She knew that the 9 heavens continent was about to descend into chaos. And she wanted to see how the man she had set her sights on would subvert the continent. She was extremely excited about this. Nine Heavens continent, Panlong Island, Forbidden Back Mountain, deep in an ancient well. Yizan slowly opened his bloodshot eyes and frowned as he looked through the ancient well at the boundless demonic light, muttering to himself. It's Jishu. It must be Jishu. No one else could possess such terrifying demonic power. His thoughts stopped there. Yizan took a deep breath and muttered in his heart. Master, just wait a little longer. After I come out of seclusion, I will never let Jishu be so arrogant again. My disciple, we must settle the score with him. With that, he raised his right arm. Under the moonlight, his right arm, which had been severed by Jishu's sword, had regenerated. Now, his right arm was covered in dragon scales, thick and powerful, with a sharp dragon spike at the elbow, looking extremely ferocious but also full of explosive power. He would use this arm, this newfound power, to crush everything Jishu had. Ji family military mansion. Ning Xuan did not attend the wedding. During this time, she had been in seclusion, recovering her spiritual power. But now, she woke up. The vast demonic power from fallen Maple Palace awakened her. Is it him? Ning Xuan murmured with a complex tone. She had never seen such a level of demonic power, not even in the Nine Heavens realm. Nine Heavens realm. Here, the spiritual energy was abundant, and the territory was extremely vast, about 10 times the size of the Nine Heavens continent. There were numerous cultivation forces here, including the ancient families of the Nine Heavens, the ancient dynasty, and the forbidden imperial clan, all existing in the Nine Heavens realm. It was precisely because of this that the cruelty here was 100 times greater than that of the Nine Heavens continent. And today, an immeasurable demonic light rose from the lower realm, and terrifying demonic power swept through the Nine Heavens. The entire realm was shaken by it. Demonic path. This demonic power is incredibly domineering, almost heaven-defying. Wait, what is this black origami crane? What is going on in the lower realm? Could it be that in this era, the demonic path is truly making a comeback? Investigate. No matter the cost, we must find out who possesses such terrifying power in the lower realm. The top powers of the ancient families, the ancient dynasty, the forbidden imperial clan, and the descendants of the gods in the Nine Heavens realm were all shocked by the demonic power from the lower realm. So they all took action, determined to send people to the lower realm to find out the truth. Of course, it wasn't just the righteous forces of the Nine Heavens realm. At this moment, in the Nine Heavens realm, the demon domain, and the Snow City, a seductive and magnetic voice of a mature woman sounded. Such a level of demonic power has appeared in the lower realm. Good, very good. Send someone to the lower realm immediately to find it for me. Who is it that awakened such heaven-defying demonic power? I, the Demon Emperor, must personally meet her, and even possess her. Yes, Lord Demon Emperor. Meanwhile, in the chaos of the Nine Heavens realm. In the lower realm, the Northern Xia dynasty, outside the capital city, stood a tall figure. Her long hair was like a fiery kiss, flowing in the wind. Under the moonlight, her skin was snow-white and crystal clear, her beautiful face ethereal and enchanting. At this moment, she frowned and stared in the direction of Ji Mansion in the capital city. No matter who the owner of this power is, I must retrieve the pure world demon flame. But, I still can't act recklessly. The woman's jade hand held her delicate chin, pondering for a while. Then, her phoenix eyes narrowed, a cold light flashing in them, and she made up her mind. Afterwards, she disappeared from the spot, turning into a blaze of fire and heading towards Ji Mansion in the capital city. In Ji Mansion's fallen Maple Palace, the endless demonic light gradually converged into Mu Bing's body. She slowly opened her eyes, and in her beautiful eyes, there was a surging world-destroying demonic light. The night breeze blew in through the palace window, wrinkling her golden wedding gown. She stood in front of Jishu, her stunning appearance still breathtaking and awe-inspiring. But at this moment, she truly resembled an emotionless killing machine, exuding a chilling aura of slaughter. Name: Mu Bing. Age: 22. Cultivation: Saint Realm First Stage. Combat Power Evaluation. Identity: Puppet of Slaughter. Hidden: Soul-devouring nails, 9 pieces. Emperor's sword, shadowless. Great Emperor's remnant soul, can burn the remnant soul power at any time to increase cultivation. Time limit: 7 days. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.